Howdy, ho ho ho, my good humans. How are thy doing? This is Unnecessary Rambling, and it is time to rank and ramble. This month, the month of February, was ridiculously packed. Loon, how you doing, man? How you feeling? How you holding up? How's the energy levels?
Um, I mean, the energy levels are a little bit tanked as I did record two videos myself before hopping on
Oh,
here.
did you?
Yeah,
Nice, nice.
been
What
getting
you?
that capture card working. I'm literally about an hour away from finishing Rage, so I've got
Hmm.
like so the first part's up. I think 9 parts pre-scheduled to come out. Like it's done basically. So
Nice, dude. So you just been doing some game streaming and some collection videos and
yep, the collection. I think that last one actually went up live just before we went and started this recording. So the collection's all up
nice.
and catalogued, and then Rage is not obviously all out now, but it will roll out week by week, and Rage is done as well, basically.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, obviously, we'll have Loon's channel linked in the description below. Go check that out for show. And dude, I gotta say, this was brutal. This month was really brutal for me. Oh boy. I mean, don't get me wrong, good problem to have. Lots of games, lots of big heavy hitters. But oh boy, this was a tough month to get through. I'm very very thankful that Assassin's Creed got booted out into March. February was pretty brutal. So we shall be ranking everything that we played here today. Loon, I got Loon running the ones and the twos, so we're testing out some new kind of on the fly editing here today for our tier maker. So bear with us as we we're learning. This is a learning experience. So if we end up fumbling and kind of uh I don't really even know what I'm trying to think of what could go wrong, and I don't want to think of what could go wrong. But
I
if we
don't. It shouldn't go wrong, but obviously, if it does, then you can direct that hatred to me in the comments for the fumbles.
Well, listen, we definitely got to thank you as well because the content output is going to be picking up dramatically on the channel because of you being able to kind of edit on the fly, operate the ones and twos on the fly, and it takes Loon like literally. We'll sit here after the show sometimes and talk for 10 minutes while Loon uploads a 2 hour video and it uploads in 2 hours, where it would take me 5, 6 hours to upload that 2 hour video. And then of course the 10 hours on top of it that it usually takes me to edit it. So it's yeah, this is drastically going to reduce the back end stuff. And with that free time, I'll be, making some new videos and just trying to get more content pouring out into the channel. And yeah, and then also being able to play through damn Avowed and KCD2 and Yakuza Pirates and so I guess it's time to get into the February rankings, my friend. We have a stacked lineup here today. I guess the first one on the docket is KCD2.
Yep.
So I guess we should go ahead and dive into that behemoth of Avidya. It was an interesting experience. I didn't play the first one, so I watched a recap video, kind of jumped into KCD2 pretty fresh. Very interesting game. Um, very deliberate, very intentionally tedious. It took me about 50 hours or so to get through the main story. I okay, so I like it a lot. I think from a storytelling standpoint, I think this game is like a straight up cinematic masterpiece. I think it is up there. Do you know what I mean? Like up there with your RDR2s and your Witcher 3s and your Last of Us and your it's up there with like all-time great stories told. The writing in this game is so unbelievably like I know a lot of people talk about the immersion factor of Kingdom Come Deliverance too. The most immersive thing to me was the humanity in which these characters spoke with and the humanity in just their day-to-day lives, just watching NPCs kind of go about their day and being like, goodness gracious, man. These fucking people feel like they're living real lives. Um, that was mesmerizing to me. Going and like, okay, I'm gonna go wait for this merchant here. I'm gonna go wait for this tailor here. But oh well, they're off in the back working on something, so I gotta wait for them to finish working on something for their shop. And now, they come around and we're able to negotiate and we're able to barter, or the tailor's out front talking to a client, or like just these super small details that add tenfold to the immersion factor. Um, but with that being said, from a combat standpoint, like I don't know, like I don't know if I could say it's god awful, but it's far from good in my opinion. Um and it's not a thing, like I didn't find the game overly difficult. I didn't find Kingdom, I got through it 50 hours or so for the main story. Um I didn't find it overly challenging. So it's not me coming in here and being, frustrated because I was dying nonstop. That wasn't really the case at all. I found the combat, if anything, to be kind of simple, where it tells you everything you need to do. When it flashes red on the screen, you
Yep.
dodge. When it flashes green, you parry. When the blue kind of attack mark pops up, you attack. And then if you attack and you're able to get a hit, then you just keep spamming hit because the enemy's staggered. And like I don't know, maybe I was robbing myself of not giving them time to get back into their stance and so we can really have this epic duel. But like, I don't know, man. I felt like that was kind of once again the most realistic way to play. If we're in a fight
Hmm.
and you hit me and I'm kind of dazed, why the hell would you wait for me to get undazed?
Yep.
Like, I don't know. I just and also the fact that you can't attack the legs in
Yeah, because
KCD
it
2.
locks onto the chest, right? Basically, it's like
Yeah.
center mass. Yeah, yeah, it is a bit weird because it kind of it's a combat system that's very similar to like For Honor. It basically took that formula and then changed it to be a little bit more immersive because For Honor has that same. It locks you into one on ones, and then it has the directional input. But with For Honor, I believe it was just uh, three directions, whereas in KCD, it's what, five or six? One, two, three,
Yeah.
four, five. I think it's five,
Right.
and that does kind of limit it from being able to attack the legs and stuff. So I can see that, but it allows them to, because with the sword fighting and stuff, when you like clang the swords, it definitely allows for a more cinematic experience than I felt that was achieved with like For Honor and stuff like that. For Honor felt very basic in a lot of aspects
Mm.
and very abusable as well. And don't get me wrong, there are certain aspects to KCD's combat which were abusable, but you still, it feels like there's a much steeper difficulty learning curve than there were in For Honor.
Yeah, well, I I mean, I don't know. I never played For Honor, but I don't feel like there was that steep of a learning curve for me. Like the difficulty or the tedium, that's the thing, is I really would like to separate those two
Mm-hmm.
words because I don't find this game difficult at all. I find it incredibly tedious, but like it's intentionally tedious. They want this game to be a simulation of 1500s Bohemian, how you would live in 1500s Bohemian. Like they're trying to simulate that. You know what I mean? They're trying to make you go in and brew potions, which I love. And like that's the thing as well, where a lot of the stuff people complain about it being overly complex or whatever, about having to really, pay attention. It's like, dude, you have a potion book that tells you every step to brew the potion. Whenever you're blacksmithing, like the sword literally will indicate exactly what you need to do when you're blacksmithing. Like it's not this overly complex thing. And that's the thing that I just kept kind of wondering about, is like, what are people talking about with this game being so, in depth? Tedious, sure. I can understand that. But like this super in depth thing, I don't really find it to be all that in depth. I think the in depth nature of this game is just from the immersion and observation standpoint of like of just watching things and being like, oh my God, they accounted for this and that. And like it's a miracle that this game exists in its form, in its like hyper realistic form.
Right.
Well, I mean, in the fact that it was created for $40 million, it's like that is absolutely astonishing because this is a I could have easily put another 100 plus hours into this thing. Um, I just went through the main story because, like, as you see, we're kind of stacked here with games to play in February. Um, but yeah, it was a and also in terms of the difficulty for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I probably had the most difficult experience you could possibly have, where I picked archery from the start because I was just tired of games with swords. I knew I had Avowed on the way and Yakuza Pirate on the way, and and I had just got finished playing some Dynasty Warriors, and I just got finished playing like, we're loaded up with sword games. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll do an archery build. But I felt throughout my experience with KCD2, there weren't enough open areas for me to go and kind of like sneak off into a corner or set up shop and start picking people off. There were a lot of like linear corridors where it really only made sense to be able to use your sword. And so I kind of got into this mindset of like, well, I probably need to use my damn sword. So I'm going to try to find a better sword, this, that, and the other. But like I didn't have a sword swinging build for my character. I didn't go and do a bunch of training early in the game to be a swordsman. I didn't go and do like that first guy's training camp for the sword because I created an archer.
Hmm.
So I was at a disadvantage with my sword play. And so like going into the later parts of the game, I was still way under leveled with my sword and I still didn't find the game overly punishing. So I like just for comparison's sake, I think Avowed is way harder than Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Avowed is brutal at times.
Um, I've obviously not
Uh,
played it yet. It was one of the games that I skipped, but hearing that, being from like someone who played the first game, that's unfathomable for me to even comprehend. Um, I think as well with a lot of people jumping in and like obviously sharing their opinions of how they found it and stuff. This kind of reminds me of like when Baldur's Gate 3 like when it first started taking off and was getting like because Kingdom Come 2 has done really damn well. And it's kind
yeah.
of that thing of like obviously people like us will go in and check it out because we're checking out tons and tons of games. But it's when like the casual demographic end up like hearing that this game is, oh, this is good, this is amazing, and then they're like, okay, I'll check it out. And then when they pick it up, if you were to stack this up against Skyrim, KCD2, this is a much steeper learning curve than Skyrim. Skyrim, you can just go in and just do whatever you want. Whereas this has a lot more moving parts. Because if you've only played, say, 3 RPGs in your life, and this is what you get tossed into next, this is probably like, holy crap, this is like, I'm drowning in systems and needing to actually focus. Because you can't just do what you want, right?
I
If,
don't know,
if, if
man.
you
Like I
have
don't
like no experience with RPGs, right? You can't just go and do what you want. You'd get your ass kicked.
I would struggle to call this harder than Skyrim even. Um
Okay.
if you're playing Skyrim on the normal difficulty, because like that's the thing with KCD2, there's only one difficulty, So it's like I don't know. I don't know if I would say this is hard. Okay, more tedious, absolutely, without a doubt. And I don't want to say tedious as like a immediately derogatory kind of statement. It's not that. It's like it's tedious in the same way that like a lot of rewarding things are tedious. It takes time and it takes you to slow down. You could say Red Dead 2 early on is really fucking tedious.
Mm-hmm.
But like it forces you to slow down and take in the world. And but KCD2 kind of stays consistently tedious. Um
And that's kind of what I was drawing with why people would end up struggling with it. Because I remember, like, an example I'll give is I had a friend who really loved Skyrim, and one of the big factors that they loved was that you can go anywhere and do anything. There's no barrier, really, because the game levels up with you. There's like them little hard caps of like, yeah, this enemy will be this level, but for most of the playthrough, it's basically in line. So when he went and jumped into, say, Elder Scrolls Online and found that back when we played it, they were gated level zones. So you could be a brand new character, you get into a level 40 zone, there's nothing you can do. So there's that kind of thing of like, sometimes people just don't like having to sit there and do something to then earn the
Mhm.
right to go somewhere else, or to sit there and learn something to then be able to achieve something. They just want the immediate gratification. And that's kind of what I was like drawing to of like, if you were to give this to somebody who only played Skyrim, I don't know if they would draw that same conclusion in comparison. I think there would be a lot of learning and, oh, this is a lot harder because I can't just do what I want. Because in Skyrim you have a
Yeah.
bow and arrow and archer build, and it's got a lot more freedom as to how you engage in the combat. Whereas we're in this game, much like probably KCD1 as well, a lot of the environments are very close quarters because it's meant to be sword and shield or sword, just basic combat and stuff. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
being like you play by my rules or you struggle kind of thing.
It's interesting from that standpoint because like I would say just straight up combat, it's probably easier than Skyrim.
Okay.
But in terms of, yeah, absolutely, I agree. Like getting to the good stuff, getting to the quests, like, because there's so many quests where it's just here is a area in which you're going to find the quest giver. Go run around and try to find him. And so it's not like directing you straight to the quest giver.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff is definitely more difficult. Getting from point A to point B is definitely more difficult. But that's once again, that's not there's nothing challenge how to say this without sounding like a asshole. Like fuck it. It's just tedious. It's not there's nothing hard about walking around and finding a quest giver. It's just tedious, you know? And like either you're going to be up to speed and equipped and ready to tackle that tedium or you're not. And like but you're not going to struggle getting through battles in KCD2. And uh, maybe I'm wrong because I've heard people talk about the game being hard for them. So maybe I I don't know. Maybe I was playing an early version of it where before it was like uh, patched and like because I did run into instances where like enemies would just stand still and I just go up to them and shoot them or go up to them and hack them to death and they wouldn't do anything. So like, that happened probably 2, 3 times in main missions in this game. So like maybe those 2, 3 times were like the hardest missions. And I didn't get that very hard experience for those 2 or 3 missions. I like this isn't a super polished game by any standpoint, but it's
You've
fucking
timed that
humongous.
perfectly with the gameplay of the horse. I don't
Right.
know if that's lined up perfectly. So good job with that.
um yeah, it's because you're talking about the horse where the dialogue keeps skipping and the horse is like jumping.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so those type of things happen quite frequently in the game. And I think I have one more clip where it's totally bugged out as well. But dude, I will say one of my favorite quest lines of all time is called For Whom the Bell Tolls in KCD2. And I'm not going to go into any like in-depth story spoilers, but it requires a ton of stealth and you're on a time crunch and you have to like brew this super complicated potion. It is just elite from a tension standpoint, dude. It is so involved. You're thinking about so many different things simultaneously. And that is where, sure, some of the difficulty can come from that. But that's once again not like it's not a combat difficulty. It's just like a moving parts difficulty, which also kind of leans into an immersive sim style of difficulty where it's like I got to think about all these different things and how I can do all these different things in all these different orders potentially. Um, and I love that style of shit so much. So yeah, man, I enjoyed this game a great deal. I enjoyed the storytelling so much. I think that, Henry and Hans, I think they're up there for me now. Like some of my favorite characters ever. I think some of the villains in this game are so well written to where, you know, it's also like I don't want to like go too into it, but no villain is automatically evil or automatically irredeemable or automatically unsidewithable. You know what I mean? Like you'll find villains who, given a set of circumstances that may or may not occur, may change the way that you interact with them. And sure, they may have done really fucked up things, but maybe to get to where you need to go to, you have to align with them and you just kind of got to bite the bullet. And then maybe at some point you end up turning your back on them. And you're given full reign to make those decisions. It's not a game where you're making fucking BioWare, Prime BGS. Like it's not a game where you're given that level of freedom like in a Fallout game or in a Dragon Age Origins or something like that. You're not given that level of detail with your choices, but it seems like they do a good job of giving you choices when they matter most and allowing you to kind of shape this story how you see fit without overwhelming the player with just choice paralysis.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Um, yeah, man. I also will say that like they have the system in there, the save system, where you can exit the game and it will automatically save for you. I highly recommend utilizing that as your manual save because you will spend an hour, 45 minutes or an hour going, not often with main quests. Main quests typically give you pretty frequent autosaves, but a lot of the time with side quests, you can literally start a side quest, do the entire thing, get right to the end of it and get attacked by some wolves and die, and there goes an hour of progress. Highly recommend exiting the game, saving, and having, at least 20 minutes, every 20 minutes doing that, every 30 minutes doing that. Whenever you're off doing side quests and you're not getting those autosaves and checkpoints. So that way you're not just wasting so much time.
Yep.
But yeah, it's I liked the game and I liked the game a good deal. And I heard a lot of people talk about in comparison to Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, that this combat just clears it. And that is probably the reason I'll never play Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. Um, I don't think the combat is good at all. I think it's going to be some people's flavor, but for me, whenever I'm playing a game like this and I can't attack the legs and you're trying to, yeah, I know it's not technically an immersive sim, but when you're trying to simulate immersion to that degree with the blacksmithing and the potion brewing and when you're trying to really make me immerse myself in a world and an enemy has his legs wide open and I got this long ass sword and I can't just dagger that sword into his unpadded, like he doesn't have any kind of fucking armor on his legs and I can't just send my sword daggering through that bitch's knee. Like that takes me out of it almost entirely, man. Um, that doesn't make sense to me. And like I know they have a clinch system, but the fact that legs are wide open and I can't go in for a takedown when I'm in a one-on-one like fist fight, I'm just like, dude, I come on, man. Like if you've ever been in a fight in your life, you're gonna end up on the ground in any like real immersive situation you would allow for someone to end up on the ground in in a fist fight, like kind of rolling around, wrestling around. And just this wouldn't bother me in a game like Pirate Yakuza because it's like who the fuck cares? It's crazy. It's not trying to be realistic,
Yeah, I
but in
see
a
what you
game that's
mean.
trying to be
Yeah, because
yeah.
it's putting immersion at the very forefront of it to then not give you what you would just expect, like every avenue possible. For them to draw the line there is a bit strange, but yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it, I think the most impressive thing about this game is how not lame it is. Cuz you're talking about 1500s Bohemia, fucking medieval boring ass politics, boring
you're,
ass
you're
way.
gonna piss off a lot of Europeans with that.
Well, I mean, I would say like any type of 1500s, like rather it's, you know, American politics or regardless, it's just the way of speaking is so, it's so boring. You know what I mean? It's so like, it's so outdated, you know? And I it's crazy to me that they're able to take something from fucking 1500s and create a compelling storyline that like you actually are able to like there's a section in this game where it's literally an hour of you just pouring wine and listening to these different you know power players in the political sphere politic. You're just listening to them go over game plan and negotiation and tactic, and you're pouring wine for them because you're trying to kind of infiltrate this meeting. And I won't go into anything more than that, but like that was top five moment of the game for me. And all I'm doing is pouring wine. But it's so well written that I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat listening to these people go back and forth with their plans. Like I can't say that about really any other game, man. Um, yeah, I got so many notes wrote down here. I'm trying to make sure I make sure I don't leave anything off that's like super.
So, a question I'll throw at you. Um, you obviously just uploaded. I think it was the last thing. Was the you're revisiting games, right?
Mhm.
Do you see this a game that you'll ever go back to ever again, or is this a
God,
one and
no.
done thing?
One and done. God, no. God, no. Absolutely not. Um,
See, that's crazy, isn't
I-
it? How some games can, like you said, this is a top five moment in the game, and it's made such an impact, and it's so damn good. But the game itself puts so many obstacles in front of you to the point where you wouldn't ever fathom revisiting that game ever again. Even though you feel strongly, but like you enjoyed the game, but you will never go back to it. That's crazy, isn't it?
yeah, well, it's the thing where, once again, talking about what do you want as a player? Do you want objective markers on your screen? Which, let me be really clear on that as well. The main story, nine times out of 10, is going to tell you exactly where to go.
Mm-hmm. We did
But
that in the first game as well.
yeah, but the side quests, because like that's the thing. If I go back and play this game, I would like to do a lot of the side quests that I missed out on. But I'm not just gonna go wander around the wilderness for 45 minutes trying to find a guy who is supposed to be sitting on a stump, but he's actually in some cabin sleeping that it's locked, and I gotta simulate time to wait for him to come outside to sit on the like. I'm not gonna. I do not want to do that. I appreciate the deliberate pace of the game, but that's not something that I want to put that I want to pour a whole lot of time into. I'm glad I played this, but it's a weird thing, Loon. I'm glad I played this. I think it's a very, very well made game. But if they launched Kingdom Come Deliverance 3 in a couple years, I'm not gonna buy it.
Oh damn!
Um,
Really?
yeah, it's unless they unless going into it they show off the combat and it looks like a total overhaul. I
I don't think they would
because
ever do that, unfortunately, because this was their big moment of like that was their fork in the road. They could have really revamped and overhauled, or keep things basically the same and just polish it. And I think they found their niche. I don't think they're ever gonna, even if they make a 3, 4, 5, it's gonna just be this combat.
yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, once again, if I ever go back to it, I would be doing it for the side questing, which would involve the two things I like the least about this game, right? It would be me going around, wandering around different villages, trying to find my way to the quest giver and engaging in a lot of combat. Where the stuff I loved so much was the agency and my choice, the storytelling, the writing. Oh my God, this dude, or that entire writing staff over at Warhorse should pat themselves on the fucking back. It is unbelievable that they are able to write every character that you interact with in such an interesting manner in this main story. Every character in this main story that you run into is like, could have been a fucking main character in the game. Like, they're so well written. Um, but yeah, like, it's just the combat really, really takes me out of KCD2, like in a big, big way, where if they showed off in KCD3 leg attacks and takedowns, and they really went full immersive sim with it, where you're fully simulating the immersion of a first person fist fight, a first person sword fight. Like, if you're fully going all the way in,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm there.
Yeah.
But to kind of dance around it and to put up so, because it feels like Hellblade 2 in a lot of ways, where it's like this thing looks so good, but the act of playing it, you start to realize all the guardrails that are up. It's like we're not really bowling. You know what I mean? We got the handrails up. You are guiding me to this battle in a very specific manner. And if I want to think outside of that, too bad, so sad. Block, parry, dodge, attack. That's what you got. Hold R2 down for a more powerful attack. And I guess I'll say that too is like, just for a quick tip, if you do get a perfect parry and you got a longer sword, hold down R2, you poke the motherfucker, and they're almost always stunned. And then so I would poke them in their belly, and then I would switch up on the analog stick to attack their head, and I would just that, and it looks ridiculous. Again, like, you're the how quickly you're hitting someone with this big ass sword. You would think you were hitting them with a frying pan, like you're Stone Cold hitting Vince McMahon in the hospital bed with a frying pan. It's so fast, and then what you end up doing is you run out of stamina. But you can still dodge backwards. So I dodge backwards. I have no stamina. My stamina bar refills, and then I just do the same thing again. Like, it was the most unimmersive fighting in a game that is all about immersion.
So
Um,
where are you gonna
yeah,
put it?
time to rank it right. Right. Yeah, yeah. That's a lot of that for nothing there. Loon, help me out, bro. What does that sound like? I mean, that probably sounds like a C,
Yeah,
but then
it really does. I'm a little bit surprised how I don't know if I'd say they were negatives, but I mean that's the only way of really cutting it. Really, you seem to have a lot more negative experience than positive with the game, but you still enjoyed it. It sounds like. So it sounds like me playing a Piranha Bytes game almost. It's like I put up with so much shit, but the end product is I like the aspects of it, so I've tolerated it, kind of thing. Because like you said, you kept using the word tedious. That's not a positive thing, even if you want to wrap it up that way. It's a game. Games meant to be fun. You're meant to be enjoying your experiences and stuff. So when the word tedious creeps its way in, that's never a good thing.
yeah, but I think life is tedious. you know, and like they want to simulate certain aspects of real life. And so like I
Yep.
Red Dead 2 is probably one of my top 5 favorite games of all time, and I would find parts of that really tedious as well
Hmm.
because they're trying to simulate reality in such a very very difficult to do manner inside of a video game. I here's the tough part. The Last of Us 1 I don't think is like I'll never play The Last of Us 1 for the gameplay. The Last of Us 2 I'll only play for the gameplay. And so that's the weird thing where even in that sense, and I don't think like The Last of Us 1 has way better gameplay than KCD 2, but it's still the thing where I don't look at The Last of Us 1 as a gameplay juggernaut. But I would
Hmm.
still rank it above The Last of Us 2, even though I like The Last of Us 2's gameplay so much more.
Right.
And I think that makes me realize that I value storytelling to such a degree that I'm willing to overlook less than stellar gameplay if you're telling a I mean stellar isn't like I can't even begin to tell you how good this story is in this game without like really diving into spoilers. Um there's a wedding scene in this game and I'll just say that like I was blown away by how they are able to create such it feels cool, dude. And I don't know how to really explain this because I don't think many developers are able to achieve cool. And I don't, that sounds like rude to say, but I don't know how else to say it. Like they understand human interaction where it's not like, oh, okay, you go to a wedding, you meet this lady, you go back, you do 5 quests for the lady, and then you end up, you know, you end up romancing them. It's like that's not how life works. You don't. Yeah, anyways, and I don't want to spoil anything, but like you just have such much more realistic, interesting relationships with everyone in this game than you do with 99% of games.
Hmm.
I think that like Warhorse, CDPR, I wouldn't even really put like Rockstar in them in that same camp because it's so maybe with Red Dead 2, sure, but like I don't know, they just understand human interaction in a way that is like such a breath of fresh air. Okay, I got to quit rambling. We'll be here fucking all day. Um KCD2, I'm going to go B tier. I'm going to
B
go
two.
B tier for KCD2. I can't overlook the flaws with the gameplay, but I got to give it up for that story. That story is a genuine masterpiece.
I mean, it's good that it got to the B two. I'm it did definitely feel like it was going to be a C tier ranking for you. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah.
I think but like if you heard me talk about The Last of Us 2 and you heard me just complain about the storytelling, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like,
No,
well, why is
exactly.
that not a C?
And the things that you want to talk about the game that it excels at would border on probably spoilers. So it kind of backs
Exactly.
you into that corner of like, this is the strongest aspect of the game, but I can't say anything of it. So I kind of
Right.
just have to allude and dance and yeah. So I do
Yeah.
I empathize with that.
Let me
It's difficult.
let me before we jump off. Motion capture, facial animations, all of that shit. People talk a lot about like this is the evolution of what a Bethesda games game should be, a BGS game specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't agree with that at all. But I do agree with the fact that like it's embarrassing that for $40 million, well, and I understand they're not US developers and they're not, you're not having to pay your employees $500,000 a year to like I get it. But like the fact that they're able to create that level of cinematic engaging cutscenes, it really is embarrassing when you play something like Sky or something like Starfield. And you're like, dude, this was made for $40 million. Starfield was made for $500 million.
Yeah, because
What
the money
the
getting
fuck?
because the money divvied up, they're not a private. They're a private company, aren't they? Warhorse. They're sold. It's like
Hmm.
Larian and stuff. They don't have to
Yep.
appease investors. None of that pie is going to somebody who has no idea what the hell the product is. All that money
Exactly.
is either getting accrued into a pot, which can allow them to do other projects, or it's getting given back to the developers who then pour their heart and soul further into it because they feel like they're valued. And this is the same with
Yeah.
KCD2 and the difference between Starfield. I don't get me wrong, there's obviously people on the Starfield dev team that love their product and everything, but you're also getting
Oh, don't get me.
squeezed like dry. That money that get all that 500 million, that's not 500 million, say, I was just pulling that out of my mouth. I don't know if that's like the actual thing, but as
I
like an
think it's
example,
close.
that all that money wasn't put into the game itself. It's probably thrown here, there, and everywhere at this executive, at this and that, and just yeah, the game suffers because of it. Whereas it's good that we have these European developers stationed in Europe making games in Europe because they've not been bought up yet, which is great, and I
Yeah.
hope that they keep their independence because this is the type of quality product that you're going to get with that kind of independence. Because you don't have someone breathing down your neck going, put this out right now because this needs to be in our next quarterly update. Put this out right now because this, and it's just yeah, it's bad.
I got to talk about this real quick, and I swear I'm off of KCD2. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the natural upgrading system. I go to the gym, I get big,
Mm-hmm.
I run on the treadmill, I increase my stamina. KCD2, perfect evolution of that. What you do in the game is reflective in your stats.
Yep.
I love it. I love that idea of going in and having to take a bath and going in and having to eat and like having to actually think about your character before, yeah, dude, if you stink in conversation, people are gonna react to that. No fucking shit. You
Mm-hmm.
can't go around being smelly. Like that these are things that you never are that are never accounted for in games. And which, once again, most games don't want to simulate tedium. But I appreciate slowing down and like this is what life is. You can't go and fucking stink and then go and talk to a damn political, powerhouse and think that they're not going to acknowledge the fact that you stink. Like it's I
It's
love stuff like that. The clothing that you get, going in and there's like a tailor. I there's you can press R1 and throw rocks. And he has this badass outfit that is on the shelf. I throw a rock, he turns around and says, "What is that?" Go and snag that damn outfit. I put the outfit on. My speech is like leveled to the max at this point. Dude, that's the type of shit where it is so fun to play in those moments. Where you're kind of creating your own stories and doing your own thing and then engaging with the actual masterclass that is the main story. So yeah, maybe when I say I'd never go back to it, maybe I would go back to it just to dick around and not do anything that I was told to do.
yeah,
Like just to see what's happening in the world. Like
yeah.
I'm
See how
gonna, I'm
far you
gonna
can
walk
push it.
behind. Yeah. Oh, dude. Fuck, man. I'm sorry, Loon. All right. There's one other moment where I walk down into a cave. I'm starting to like, we just started recording, so I'm like knocking the cobwebs off, and I'm like, the brain's actually starting to fire now. I So I went into this cave and see, once again, this is a fucking spoiler because it's a main story quest. I'll just say this. There's a dude who is operating a shisty kind of business. And so I go into this cave and he's got a bunch of guards down there in the cave that are powerful as hell. Because once again, this is why I really encourage you to exit the game to save because you can try different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you just go in one run and you're not trying different outcomes, like you're robbing yourself of a really, really interesting experience to see how this story can branch. Um, so I go into this cave and I try to attack the guy because he's doing some shady shit. His guards wipe me out immediately, like 2 hits and I'm done. But then I'm like, I notice that his guards are actually asleep before I attack him. So I'm like, hmm, I am going to pop into this cave, lure him to the back of the cave away from his guards, and then I'm gonna say, okay, listen, no problem, man. I understand. You got your own thing running here. It is what it is. As he turns around to walk back to his guards, bat! I drive that dagger in his throat.
Yep.
He's dead as hell. I'm getting badass outfits off of him. I'm getting badass, tons of coin, tons of cash, get all of the documentation that I need to complete the quest. And like it set my character up from that point. I'm loaded to the brim with money. And like I don't know, man. Those are the emergent moments that I really, really, really recommend. And sure, are you going to rob yourself of some of the like I know that I think even you've talked about it before where like you'll make a choice and you'll kind of lock into that choice. Is that your RP and in that specific mindset. And you don't really want to have that like
Hmm.
you don't want to pull the you don't want to pull the wool. You want to you want to you don't want to know all the systems that are laid out there that you could kind of manipulate. You want to feel like I'm in this world and I'm not manipulating the game. I'm playing the game as it comes to me.
Hmm. Yeah.
I like manipulating and pulling all the levers. Like let's see what this one does and
I
this one
think
does.
that's the thing though. That's not like a wrong way to play either way.
No.
Like it shows the range that the game offers, if anything, by giving you both of them options. Because when you do it in your way, you are seeing so much and experiencing so much. But when you do it in my way, you don't feel like you're losing anything though. When you're fully locked into that,
Yeah.
because them systems are so rich. When them systems are kind of wobbly and barely holding together, and it's kind of like they've not been executed 100%, then you kind of feel like this isn't very good, and you do kind of regret like maybe I should have made a save and gone down this avenue and stuff like that.
The only thing I'd say to that for this game specifically is it doesn't present itself with such a rich, robust, like flowing kind of branching choices. Like it doesn't have that thing where, which it does have, like you got to have certain levels of
Hmm.
stats to engage in certain conversations and all that. But really, I don't know. For me personally, I found the most enjoyment out of just retrying things and
Yep.
seeing all that this game can allow for. But we got way too many games to go over to sit here and
Oh, don't
we
worry,
could
that was
have did
only
a
50 minutes for KCD too.
damn man. I'm sorry. I'll rapid fire run through some of these
No,
other
it's
ones. I don't
fine.
have as much to
It
say
takes as
about.
long as it needs to.
My bad, Lone. But yeah, dude. KCD2 B tier. Avowed
Yep,
is
up
the next up on
next.
the tier list.
And
We
this
both
is
played
both
this.
of us. Yep. So,
Yep.
and I wanted to also, before we dive into it, there's obviously two versions here, and you'll see why.
Ah,
Mm.
teaser.
Yeah, if you can guess why one's on fire, that's why. You know, Jesus Christ. So what I'll do is I'll kick it off to you to kind of begin it, because the way I'm gonna wrap mine up, because I'll obviously interject with the early sections, and then because I was gonna run a bit of footage to show like my bug, kind of spoiled that. But yeah, the thing that's preventing me from finishing the damn game. So
All right. Avowed early kickoff kind of overview. It is from a combat standpoint, the only competition it has is Dying Light, in my opinion. In
ooh,
terms of, oh, and Indiana Jones. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, Indiana Jones. But like in terms of first person engaging action gameplay, oh my God. Like this thing is so fun to play, dude. Where it's almost the total opposite with KCD2, where I'm so engaged in that narrative of KCD2 that whatever bullshit you throw at me, whatever bad combat, whatever, I'm so engaged that I'm just going to see this story through no matter what. In Avowed, like if you tell me it's actually kind of a problem for me in Avowed, where I'll be interacting with someone and I can solve this shit peacefully, but I just want to fight you. Like that's not, and that's not, that's not how I play games, especially Obsidian games. And so I think I'm kind of robbing myself from like this narrative to really appreciate the kind of world building and the character arcs, because like I don't know if I'm really even allowing for fully fleshed out character arcs because I'm killing them so early.
I what I will say is, I don't think you are in this game. I think it's the one of the first times in a very long time where they kind of have dropped the ball in that regard because it's weird. Their combat in their games has never been their strongest point. It's their world building and storytelling that's always been the strongest points of an Obsidian game and why you would play them. It feels so weird to jump into Avowed and have this amazing combat system. And then, like you said, you would end up getting into like a conversation with somebody, and then they give you all these different options, and you can talk your way out of it, you can fight your way out of it. And when you talk your way out of it, there's not really all much in the way of like things down the road. It's very, very,
Yeah.
very light from what I've experienced, and it's just very light. It's like, what's the point? Like, why not just kill everyone then? Because on top of it being the kind of thing of like where there's not really that much benefit in the long run. It's also the strongest part of the game. I'm robbing myself of more of it.
Right. Yeah. And like not having the speech stat. I was like, I was devastated by this. And I understand, you have your character background and you can kind of upgrade that, and certain levels unlock certain, dialogue decisions that you can make, but not having a specific speech stat, I don't know, man. That's like Obsidian to its core, in my opinion. And I don't know. For me, that was a pretty big bummer. And that kind of made it to where I didn't so much want to engage with the dialogue, because I was like, what I love doing the most in Obsidian games is like saying, fuck my combat. I'll get it to where it's functional,
Mm-hmm.
but then I'm just min-maxing the hell out of my stats into speech so that I can go in and negotiate with anybody. I can go in and manipulate anybody. And like I said, people like playing games differently. I love pulling the levers. What's behind this door? What's behind this door? I want to really be able to manipulate the game to see what it can offer me. And I don't feel necessarily the need to do that in Avowed because it feels so limited from not giving me that role playing experience that I look for in Obsidian games.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think when I was talking to a friend about it, I played the opening hour and was really damn impressed with the feel of the game. But I did stop myself and I was like, that is definitely the strong points, but I'm a little bit wobbly on like the speech and the role playing aspects. Hopefully that'll pick up later on. And it hasn't. Even all like I think I about 26 hours in before I hit that game breaking bug. You obviously finished it. Um so you can kind of elude. I don't think there's really all that many moments in the entire game from start to finish where it gives you something in line with like an Outer Worlds thing of like payoff with your role playing, role
No.
build, and stuff like that. It's definitely much more focused on its combat and exploration. They are the top two things that the game is pushing because it's incredible combat and then the exploration is
Oh
amazing from
my
top to bottom
God.
of verticality. It's the best movement in any Obsidian game.
RPG, maybe. Maybe any first person RPG ever.
Yeah, you could argue that. And it's and when I was talking to him about it, the thing that I landed on as my conclusion was it's the best feeling game, but the role playing is paper thin. And that's really unfortunate because that's not what you want from an Obsidian game. And ironically, I think it's because they've just become too efficient. They've gone the complete opposite end, where they
Right.
were so ambitious and they would put 100 million features in, and then the game would suffer for it. And then they trimmed it down in the Outer Worlds, and it was like, okay, yeah, you've sacrificed a tiny amount, but like you've polished it up. it feels like they've fully sacrificed the role playing now to the point where it's almost non-existent, and it's like it's a weird thing because obviously you don't want games to release buggy and stuff like that, but when you had your buggy games, you were the most ambitious, and you had these really cool features, and you had these really cool like layers to your game, and now they're gone. And is this the new Obsidian now? Are they just going to be really polished and then have paper thin role playing elements? Because if that's the case, I don't want that. I don't know if you would
Hmm.
agree with that. I would rather the game be buggy. Weirdly enough,
Yeah.
I'd rather you unshackle yourself then, because if you're shackled and this is what we've got, this isn't enough for me.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. And I think we'll see that with Outer Worlds 2. That'll kind of be the full answer right there. Because if the Outer Worlds 2 doesn't come equipped with like
Mm.
speech stats and all these weird little choices you can make, and Vicar Max becoming a hippie midway through the game and totally altering the course of his character arc, like depending on one little side thing that you do. Like if those things aren't there in the Outer Worlds 2, then yeah, I don't think I would really want that either for in turn better combat and a cleaner, more polished game. I don't know.
Because do you think this is kind of like a an arcane kind of thing? Do you know how they had their A and B team because they're working on the Outer Worlds too? That was probably the priority,
Yeah,
so that's not going to suffer. And then the Avowed was that secondary project, and it was given a lot less budget, a lot less time,
right.
and this is kind of what we're going to get. Because for me, the thing that I was also saying was, dude, the Pillars universe is so rich. It oozes with richness. And they did a really good job of not bombarding the player with the lore, but also a lot of it, it just doesn't. They're also not trying to push it at all in many cases. And it's just like, man, there needs to be a better balance of that. Because that is the whole point of Pillars. Like Pillars combat was whack. That's not why you played it. It was the interesting political intrigue between the gods, and the gods just don't do anything in this game.
Yeah.
Really, there's
They were one of the worst parts.
and that's what drove me insane. Is that in Pillars you have these massive moments that it builds up to, and then it would rip you in. Do you know when you was doing the memory segments and it's all hand drawn art? That was
Yeah.
utilized in Pillars 1 and 2 when you were interacting with the gods, because that was the separation. You'd have the normal dialogue with the characters in the world, and then whenever you would speak to the gods, it was elevated. That's much more stylized because these are important. These are important moments and important characters that you're interacting with, and you just they're so few and far between in Avowed. And the gods are absent, and like I don't know if because I never obviously got the chance to finish it. I don't know if they actually tell you why, because it was a plot point in Pillars 2 that stuff was happening, but they in the 20 hours I played they didn't tell me anything, and it's just like it's really what is going on here? Like this game doesn't make sense in so many of its like narrative decisions. I don't get it.
I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say the end of the game, the art direction is unbelievable. And I think the entire game,
Yeah, no,
the
the
art
game is
direction
beautiful
is
and
really,
yeah.
really strong. But in specific, I won't go into it, but like it the art direction changes drastically for reasons that we don't got to get into, and like it is very, very impressive. Um I kind of found myself being really bummed out with this game from a narrative standpoint to where I was like, shit, I just bought these other Pillars games. Is this kind of what I'm in for? I'm happy to hear that it's not, that those games are much more rich and like hopefully a little bit more personable.
Yes,
That was,
that's
yeah,
oh my god, yes. I'm so glad you brought that up as like a it really is. Like the companions in the game, they're very well voice acted, but they don't do anything. I don't know if you felt
right.
that way. I don't know if it's because maybe they saved it to the final like couple acts and then threw them in like really cool quests and stuff, but they were so crap. It's like you landed Garrus's voice actor, man.
Right.
You went out of your way to also say that you did it. So therefore, when you think of like Garrus in Mass Effect, you think of these powerful moments that you had with that character over the course of a trilogy and a conclusive, ending to his story. And it's so weak. So weak in
And another thing
comparison.
is like, yeah, you'll make a choice and it'll piss off Kai or it'll piss off one of your other companions. But then, like, literally 2, 3 minutes later, they're, oh, endearing envoy. Oh, I'll go to the ground. I'll die for you. Like, I, and listen, I'm not trying to compare the two games because I know the Veilguard is such like a hot button thing, but there's moments in the Veilguard where you make key crucial decisions and that companion is like pissed for a long time and you feel like you have to earn them back on your side. And like that's so important for a role-playing game where it's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this player's shoes. I am the envoy. I am the rook. I am whatever. And what I do has to have some consequence. Otherwise, I can just dick these characters around and I know they're still going to ride with me. So they're pretty much expendable. And like, I don't think if you look at your party that way, you build any real connection to them. Sure, like you said, very well written, very well voice acted, very well realized from a character design standpoint for a lot of these characters. Most of these characters. Some of these characters look absolutely fucking ridiculous. And I don't know if that's just the fantasy thing, but it's also a thing where these character models look pretty horrendous. Especially like the human character models are pretty damn rough. And I think that goes back to your point of efficiency of we're going to get this game out in 4 years and it's not going to be this epic. Avowed doesn't feel like an epic. It feels like an epic when you're in combat. It feels like an epic when you're exploring. But like narratively, it doesn't feel like this. It doesn't feel like it's dragging me through by the weight of I cannot wait for this next moment. You're anticipating every single beat. Like it doesn't have that. Whereas Kingdom Come 2 and it's, I know comparison is the thief of joy, whatever, but like we're in February. We had two big first
Yeah.
person RPGs. Like you're going to pick one or the other.
They are the
We have to
same
talk about it.
genre. They have to be compared. Like, it it has to be compared. You can't just be like, yeah, because of course, yeah, they're doing two different things. One's going for immersion, and the other one's leaning fully into fantasy. But at the same time, that's the same genre. So their end goal is the same thing: give you an epic story. That is the first and foremost, and an epic adventure and an epic feeling. And it doesn't do that most of the time in Avowed. The epicness comes from when you're going through these areas and exploring them and going through these caves and blowing up walls and throwing ice grenades onto the ocean and being able to utilize them mechanics. But when you finally get to the end of that dungeon and you get to the narrative conclusion, it's so incredibly weak. So
Yeah.
incredibly weak. And it hurts because, like you said, like you've gone out and bought the Pillars games, and you're kind of sitting there like,
Yeah.
um, and it's kind of like, no, that them games did all this to the best possible degree. It would do the thing of it would give you building blocks, and then when it kind of alludes to like it's gonna be, it's stopping there. That little plot point is getting tied up, but there's also something layered on top of that. Like you're tying that plot point up because it leads to this, and that's much more dangerous. And then you make your way to that, and then you conclude that, and it's just layers upon. Whereas this, it just feels like a flat line for most of it. Is how I felt. There
Yeah.
was no. You have like a city get attacked, and it doesn't feel like anything happens really. There's no like
Yeah.
I know, like you said, the comparison and stuff, it can hurt and stuff, but like Veilguard pulled that off better than this, and that's shocking.
Bro. there's a moment in KCD2 where almost the exact same thing happens, and like it is gut wrenching to the core because man, I hate spoilers, but it's like we can't be spoiling these games. They just came out and but there's a moment in KCD2 where it's like, "Oh my God, no, no, no. I didn't know my choice was going to lead me here."
Hmm.
And the ramifications are severe, dude. Um,
And that's an RPG. It gives you
yeah,
a choice where it hits you in the gut, and that
yeah.
I haven't had a moment like that in Avowed. And don't get me wrong, I think people have kind of realized I play so much slower paced than you, because you beat it within like that 24, 25 hour period, whereas I had just got to like that third area. Like I'm uncovering every stone, so I've seen probably more of the game than you
Oh
overall
yeah.
as a complete package, and there just wasn't payoff in so many of the quests. A lot of them were just like the the thing that I'm getting out of this is just exploring beautiful environments, and that's it. That's the
Yeah.
beginning and the end of it. That is it. Open and
It's
shut book.
Dying Light.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I know that sounds so crazy to someone listening to this, but like in Dying Light 2, you get to make choices. They don't feel super consequential.
Mm.
It's some of the best combat ever. It's some of the best exploration ever. In Avowed, you get to make choices. They don't feel all that consequential. It's some of the best combat ever. It's some of the best exploration ever. Like I know it sounds so weird to be comparing those two games, but like I thought about that comparisons. Of course, it's not parkour, but I thought about those games in comparison to one another so many times. I will say that it's a great problem to have right now, where it's okay, you're either going to go play one of the best stories that's ever been created in a video game with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, or you're going to play some of the best combat that's ever been created in a first person role playing game with Avowed. Like, that's a dope problem to have in 2025. Every game is going to have shortcomings. It's really going to depend to the individual person how much the shortcomings stack up to them to hinder the overall experience. To me, when I'm roaming through Avowed and I have my what is it, the Grimoire spellbook. I have that in one hand, and I have a spear or a pistol in the other hand, and I'm blasting an enemy with ice, pulling out my pistol, shattering them bitches to bits, hitting them with fire, immediately swapping on the fly. Your loadouts can be swapped at a moment's notice just by pressing triangle. I hit someone with fire, shoot them with a pistol, bang, hit triangle, swap over to my two-handed axe, one hit, boom. Just immediately eliminate those bitches. But I will say, Avowed is not a game to be trifled with. Like you go roaming around and thinking that you're gonna just power through the entire game, this big power fantasy, like I'm gonna go through and annihilate everyone that roams in my path. Avowed will fuck you up if you go into
Mm,
certain battles and you're not prepared.
not for me.
Are
Not for
you?
me in the slightest. I was dual wielding pistols and went full crit, and it just bulldozed everything.
Oh,
Like
really?
the combat is showing right now. Like I'm one shotting like most enemies and getting
Oh,
into like
damn.
boss fights, and you hit them in the head, and it like shatters 90% of their stagger bar. So you just need to hit them once more, and then you're doing that massive opening. It was disgustingly balanced.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so
So
I didn't dual wield any of the
mm,
same item at all. So I wonder because like you could even dual wield swords if you want to, which is
yeah.
fucking cool. Like I think stuff like that, we talk about all the time, like what constitutes as role playing. And I think you often bring up the point where it's not just choice.
Mm.
And I'm always like in the camp of if I can't make my choices, how am I really role playing? But like it is true where the choice here is like how you want to play the game. Do you want to go two swords? Cool. Do you want to go a sword and a spell book? Do you want to go a sword and a wand? Do you want to go a pistol and a spell book, a pistol and a wand, a pistol and a spear? Like that's cool to me. Two pistols, two daggers. So, like just choose how you want to play the game, and it really allows free range for you to make those choices.
Yeah. And the thing I want to also toss them like a good job with is grimoires. Taking the CRPG version of a grimoire and bringing it in to an actual RPG. Like I can't think of a game that's done that in so long. Usually you have like Bethesda when they've done it. Their single use spells as consumables. No man, do the grimoire thing. It's amazing. Like have these grimoires be around and have it be filled with 5 spells. You don't even need to have the spells from your skill list. It will just let you use them. That is how grimoires are meant to be, and that is what kind of helps propel mage users in the early game because they don't have the ability to kind of keep up most of the time because sword and board you're as efficient as you are gonna it's just gonna be higher damage. Like you can block efficiently and you can stagger efficiently. Whereas with spell users, what you fire one fireball and then you're waiting 15 seconds for a cooldown. Having a grimoire to pick through 5 spells is just so much better. It's a great system.
Well, and also, dude, like the further along in the game that you go, you don't even need the Grimoire book.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is crazy, dude. Where I can literally have two swords and all of my spells because you've upgraded your mage stat enough. Or I forget the specific stat, but you've upgraded it enough to where I got a pistol, a sword, and all of my spells. And I'm able to do all of my long range shooting with my pistol, all of my sword attacks, and all of my spells. As long as I have two free hands, I can pick what I want in those two free hands as well as my full spell book. Like, dude, this combat allows for such flexibility and such a fun it's dynamic as hell, dude, because you can truly tailor it to your liking, to really any specificity that you want to like however the hell you want to go into combat, it'll allow for it.
Yep. And just need to buy myself time here. I wanted to
Oh
just
yeah.
show the bug as to what I was
Is it
experiencing.
spoilers?
It's not spoil. It's literally just I
Okay.
can't enter a town.
Oh, okay.
Um,
You want me to
so
ramble for a second while you
yeah,
or
I've
you
got it
got
up
it?
now.
Okay,
So
cool.
basically, I got to that third area, and as you can see, I'm like running up here. And the day before the patch went live, the enemies hadn't spawned in at all. It gave me 3 different like radial things of being like they're in this vicinity, and the city's under attack, and you need to kill them to basically gain access to the city to continue on. And it didn't do that, and I was like, okay, this is kind of stupid. And I was like, I sent you a message. I'm pissed off. And then there was murmurs that they're deploying a patch tomorrow. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine then. Maybe this has to be like up there to get fixed. Downloaded, installed the patch, loaded the game up, and my heart jumped with joy because the enemies were there, and I was like, oh yeah, let's go. And then I went up to them, and they are all in what's essentially just basically T-posing. So they exist, they just don't do
Ooh.
anything, and it's just like, man, that is a salt in the wound kind of thing. Like, I don't know if this is gonna get fixed. I think this is the type of thing where it's like, man, I'm 26 hours in. I might have to like restart the game because I don't know if I'm going to be doing that. If
No.
I'm being 100% honest, because as much of a Pillars fan I am, this game did so little for me, which is really, really, really sad because obviously it was one of my most anticipated games of the year. Being a Pillars fan and hoping that if it was going to be anybody, Obsidian would be able to pull this off. And this definitely just feels like for me, a subpar product. Don't get me wrong, the combat's incredible, the movement's good. It's a bad RPG. It is where I
Yeah.
come out is where I come away from it, and that's not just from that. May be like, oh well, you're kind of coming off it negatively because you're incapable of finishing it. No, I had them feelings leading up into that area. I was hoping that that area that I finally got to was going to be that turning point. That opening area was really good for an exploration and beauty looking standpoint, but there was hardly any role playing elements. There was maybe two, really, if I'm being generous, in that opening area. And in the second area, it was fetch quests, fetch quests, fetch quests, fetch quests. And it's just
Ooh,
like,
that hurts me a lot because I
come
was
on,
wondering about
man.
like,
No, there's no point in doing them side quests. They are
damn.
all crap. They are all crap. And that, again, that hurts me. The only thing you're getting from it is exploring really cool looking environments. And that's not enough from an RPG for me.
Right,
Like, you
right.
need to strike the balance. And then getting into that third area and getting hit with that, on top of that third area for me as well, was bad performance wise. I was running into like chugging elements in that like desert area. And I was like, ooh, I hope this doesn't have ramifications. And it ended up having ramifications.
Yeah.
The game broke, and it's just like, okay, cool, man. I see. So I come away from it because I'll happily throw my ranking out there now. I'm ready for mine. Mine's literally hanging on for dear life of a C ranking, so close to being in a D ranking.
Okay. I I'm gonna go B as well. Um, I know boring Brandon with his B's.
Well,
Uh,
Kingdom Come above it or below it?
let's not rank them individually. We'll save that for like
Okay.
the end year, game of the year stuff. Because I really don't know. That's something that I'd have to actually sit there
Okay.
and think about. Off the top of the dome, I'd probably say KCD2 above Avowed. So if you want to place that there for like a rough,
Yeah,
rough kind of, but I really don't know. They're really close in my estimation because it's like I got the exact thing that I wanted from KCD2 and Avowed, and I got the exact thing that I wanted in Avowed from KCD2. And I would really have liked to have had both from both, but like you know what I'm saying? The thing that was absent in KCD2 was the combat. The thing that was absent in Avowed was the story. And it's like, what a ass I would have never expected that.
Mm-hmm.
Obsidian, the masters of narrative, just this craftsman in terms of some of my favorite stories ever come from Obsidian. And like I was thinking, it'd probably be cool to swing a sword in 1500s Bohemia and all of these different systems that they have here. And like I was thinking that shit would be really fun. That shit was not fun at all. And I was thinking that in Avowed, it's like, oh, this is going to be an epic story. Shit's not epic at all. It's like really weird how that turned out. Totally ass backwards. Yeah, we'll go with B because the combat's so fun, the exploration's so fun. It feels like Dying Light to me. I fucking love Dying Light. I know that that's like it kind of sounds like damning praise, but I think a lot of people are a lot more lukewarm on Dying Light than I am. Like I really, really like Dying Light. And so to
Yeah,
play more first person,
I thought it was alright. So I actually picked
yeah.
up Dying Light 2 back up again, and I was playing it just before Avowed, weirdly enough. Having no idea that it
Damn.
was going to be similar in gameplay. Dying Light 2 is better than Avowed, for me. Um, so,
I could probably agree.
mm. It also, it sounds like I'm being even harsher on it, but it's that kind of thing of like, put yourself in my shoes of a series that you love having two so good games and then basically coming out and being like, okay, we want to kind of broaden our horizon, give it to more people, so we'll change the genre type. Instead of it being a CRPG, we'll go for more of a casual RPG, and how much they've lost by doing that. That was my biggest worry, and it feels like they've just lost 60% of the systems that made that universe appealing and intriguing.
And dude, I mean, not to go on for too long about this, but like I don't know if you saw the Steam player numbers. Pillars 1 doubled Avowed. Like
Because I
that's
had
fucking
people like me
crazy.
saying, "Don't play this shit."
Yeah,
So
that
many
is
people
so
were like,
wild.
"Man, this isn't what I would have wanted." And people have gone back and because they've heard people like myself, where they've shouted that Pillars is an incredible CRPG.
Let me be clear. It peaked. Pillars peaked like whenever it peaked 10 years ago or 8 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
it peaked at double of what Avowed peaked at. Like right now, it's still, pretty low. for Pillars. But it's like it's just crazy to think that what they were attempting is like this big, expansive, more accessible version of Pillars. But and let me also be clear as well, it's on Game Pass. So it's like we have no millions of people could be playing this just on Game Pass.
Yeah.
So we really don't know. It's hard to track those metrics. But definitely on PC, it
Well,
doesn't seem to be doing as well as Pillars.
obviously, this is take it with a grain of salt. Um, so not pillars, avowed under True Achievements, who they scan millions and millions of Xbox. So this isn't like PC. Avowed shot up to third. It came in at 13th
Oh yeah.
place when it was in the early access period. Now it's up into third place, so jumping up 10 places. And you have the likes of, where is it? Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is at 33rd.
Oh
So there's a
wow. See,
ton more people jumping in with because it's Game Pass. That's what the power of it. But they don't give us them numbers. So I'm sure
yeah,
they will probably tweet out
six, seven
Obsidian
million players.
a ton of players that have played it. But
Yeah. We don't know the conversion rate
yeah,
for like sales and all that, but like I don't know if it necessarily. I, it's hard to it's hard to say it doesn't matter because we've seen it matter before with like Hi-Fi Rush, but at the same time, it's like I don't know, man. If you get 5 million players on Game Pass, it's like that's a lot of people playing that game, dude. Um,
yep.
yeah, so for me, B tier for Avowed. Fun conversation though, definitely a fun conversation. It's kind of the same way I feel about Veilguard, where it's like it is just fun to talk about it because the opinions are so split. I've seen people talk about like this is definitively their game of the year, and then I've saw people talk about this is an absolute dumpster, and it's like cool, cool. I like opinions being split like that, especially without it being as divisive. Like with Veilguard, it got pretty brutal to even just mention the name without being, through a bunch of hate. It doesn't seem like Avowed's quite that. It seems like people are actually playing the game and like okay, well, it's this experience versus this experience, and they're debating the merit of the game. I
Yeah,
always love
there's
fun,
a lot
divisive
more
conversation.
positive floating around about, but it does seem like there's a massive skew. It still is getting covered absurdly negatively for the
Mhm.
wrong reasons as well. I just want to touch on like the things that I've seen people poke at it are like, well, you should probably be focusing on what the game actually gets wrong instead of these things. So, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's let me down. Is where I'll leave it at that. And I hope that they patch what they need to patch and let me finish it so that I can give like a complete, you know, complete opinion on it and see if it does actually save face story wise towards the end and actually gives me the payoff I'm hoping for. But them opening acts, I'm not too confident on that.
Yeah. It's I would kind of say it probably let me down as well, just because like Outer Worlds, Fallout New Vegas, Alpha Protocol, all-time epic narratives, in my opinion. And this just falls way short of that. Better combat than all those games, but falls way short of that from a narrative standpoint. All right, Loon, is the next thing up Yakuza?
Pirate Yakuza, absolutely. I can't wait to hear your take on this. This is something I had to skip, unfortunately, but it seems to be rubbing people quite the right way, which is good.
Oh boy. This shit is so fun. I love playing this game so damn much, man. And I'm so happy that I jumped into it without doing the thing that I was about to do, where I was about to just play through two, three, four, five, six, and jump straight into Pirate. And it's like the dude has amnesia in the game. He doesn't remember anything. So it's like such a perfect entry point where you don't have to know shit about the Yakuza franchise to jump into Pirate Yakuza. And sure, there's like little nods here and there, like I won't spoil anything, but of course characters that you know will appear and but it's not that thing where it's not that thing where he doesn't even know those characters. So if you don't know them, it's totally okay because that's getting fleshed out. And the combat in this game is so it's judgment it's pirate judgment more than anything. It's so damn fast, dude. It is pirate judgment may cry. Like you are lifting enemies up into the air and juggling them like you're playing as damn Dante. You got Majima juggling motherfuckers in the air. You have sections in this game where you will fight hundreds of enemies at once, like you're playing Dynasty Warriors. It is pi- Pirate Judgment Warrior May Cry. It's crazy. No, no, no. Wait. Assassin's Creed Black Flag. We got to throw that into the name as well. It is Pirate Judgment Black Flag Warrior May Cry. It's crazy. What this game is doing is absolutely crazy. And then all of that, the naval combat, where like that is insane in and of itself that it's this fleshed out. I have a full crew that I can go in, and not only do I have a full crew that's assigned to me, I go out into Hawaii recruiting different pirates to come join me, and they all have their different, specialist abilities, and I can go, okay, well, this guy, he's ranked pretty high, but I'm gonna have to go and damn, I got to complete 20 bounties to get this dude on my team. But ooh, I go and complete 20 bounties. I got hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting there. And so now I got hundreds of thousands of dollars and I got this elite pirate on my squad. So I have a bad motherfucker and tons of money to spend on my boat. So I'm going in and I'm equipping different. I want it all blacked out. I want this. I want my ship murdered out. I want damn black flags. I want black paint. I want black equipment all around. I want this thing looking like it is destined to destroy any ship that it comes across. And I'm loading up with the finest artillery. I got the machine guns on the side decked out, the flamethrowers on the right side. I got the best RPG that money can buy in case we get into a sticky situation. I'm leaving my I'm what's the guy that leads the ship called? Is that
The
the
captain.
the captain? The captain. I'm
Yeah.
I'm captaining the ship. I'm driving it around. I'm sending out the orders. But sometimes shit gets hairy,
Hmm.
especially later in the game, like the Coliseum battles that you have
Hmm.
in Yakuza. Dude, it is brutal later in the game. So I'm having to leave the captain seat for a second, grab my RPG, and just start mowing down ships. And so, dude, it is just, and then after you get into those encounters, you can go and board the ship. After you've like depleted enough of their ship health, you get to go and board the ship. So you board the ship, and then it turns into the full-on Judgment May Cry. I'm lifting enemies up in the air, and it's not only that you can lift them in the air, you lift them in the air, and you can just spam attacks like it's total cheese.
Hmm.
You lift them in the air, and oftentimes you can deplete their entire health bar while they have no chance at defense. Which Yakuza's kind of known for that, where you
Yeah.
could pick up a bike and just beat an enemy over the head with a bike until their health is fully depleted. Um, before I just ramble on, is there anything you're curious about with Pirate Yakuza before I just go into a
I'm
full tirade?
I'm not curious because I knew kind of what to expect.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Everything you've said just makes sense. Once you've played enough
Yeah.
of these damn games, you're just like, yeah, well, of course. And the thing that's making me laugh though is that you've obviously drawn all them conclusions. They've shown up Ubisoft at their own game because they've made a better Black Flag game. You can then go and recruit people in the street, so you've done a better job than Watch Dogs Legion did.
Watch Dogs Legion.
It's a better combat game overall than anything that it's just like, man, you've got like some major beef with Ubisoft. If it sounds like RGG, man, you've everything that they've tried to take a shot at, you've somehow put it into one game and you've made it better in every regard. Like, I just love it.
And I won't go too much into this, but there is a lot of remedy in this game. Um, yeah, I won't dive too much into
He
that. But
sings,
like,
right? He must do because there's karaoke sections in all of the Yakuza games. There has to be some shanty shenanigans.
yeah, okay. Well, even more than just singing. I'll just say that. Like, it's early, very early in the game. Like the big moment hits pretty early, where it's like Disney animated film musical thing. Like it's crazy what happens. And Yeah, it's just wild. And I think we need to start looking at RGG as potentially being like top 3.
Yeah, no, I
And
have.
and
Yeah, no, they're already in like they're easily within my top five devs
yeah,
of like all time. They just it what people don't give them enough credit is, and I know people go, "Oh, it's another Yakuza game. Oh, it's another this." Do you understand the power that they have to not only recycle that crap but make it enjoyable? They've made the same game like 8 times, guys, and people still love it. There's no complaints that they're doing that. This isn't like a Ubisoft thing of like an oh, it's another Assassin's Creed, oh, it's another Far Cry, eyes roll, and then it gets torn to shreds online and stuff. Like their craft is so perfected that you don't mind it. So when they go and do something like a Pirate Yakuza thing, and they do sprinkle a little bit more, sass onto it, and make it kind of stand out even more, they could have just done another Majima in Thingy, and it would have got the same reception. They could have done just give him his own story. What is he doing now? But they've decided to go a little bit more wacky, and it just all the more better for it. Like they don't miss. They've not made a game that's missed for me ever.
I'll be the
The devil's
outlier
advocate
there.
for once.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
I I did get to the point where I played Yakuza 0 and 1 back to back, and I was like, I do not want to be in Kamurocho, right? Is that the
Yeah, Kamurocho. They do go to
yeah,
other
yeah.
places, by the way. That's only in them first few games. You go to like Soddenbori, you go to Hiroshima. There's a bunch of other places they do go.
How long, what point in the series until we get there? Because I was like, because I'm on 2 now, and I was like, man, am I
Three,
just gonna be in?
4. They
Okay,
go straight away.
that's not
Like
that long.
they and the difference is with because you're not as like you like Kiryu as a character, but you're not as like fully invested in him as like say like me and stuff.
And I
They
love Majima.
with Majima, but with like 3, 4, like 3 it introduced like a bunch of characters. 4 it introduced a bunch of like
That you get to play as?
yeah
Oh,
yeah. There's tons of
okay.
different. There's prison sections that you go through in 4,
Oh,
and like
nice.
a
Okay.
massive
Environmental changes and stuff.
yeah of
Okay.
something that you just wouldn't expect out of nowhere, and the same in 5 and stuff. So I think definitely at least dive into like 3,
Oh
and
yeah, I'm gonna play them. Yeah,
because I
I'm gonna
think
play all of them.
the only thing is that they're just rough to play. For me personally, they're a little bit stiff because they were just remastered. That's the only difference.
Yep.
The reason I gel so much with Kiwami 1, 2, and 0 is because the actual combat is so snappy. Whereas with the thing,
Well,
it's kind of like that. It's very stiff.
well, that's the crazy thing about Pirate Yakuza is like it makes the remasters look stiff. It is so fluid that like you feel like in comparison that those other games are running in sand. It is I don't this and immersive sim get thrown around way too much. But like this feels character action light
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways where I am like legitimately playing at times a Devil May Cry game because I do the same thing in every single battle because I love it so much. Square, 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 triangle, triangle, lifts the enemy in the air, and then I'm just whack, 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 hacking them bitches away. Um, so yeah, like no doubt, I definitely I am gonna go through and play all the Yakuza games, but I was really happy that I just jumped into this one because what it does is kind of exactly what you're talking about, where it freshens up the environments because you're given a ship. And so you're going to different places. And that is exactly what I needed. I wanted more of this style of game, but I wanted to see more. I wanted to be in different places. That would be like for me if Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was 3 games. You know, I love San Andreas and I loved Yakuza 0, but I don't want to play it over and over and over. And so the fact that there's spots in Pirate Yakuza where you see such a drastic shift from a tonal perspective, just based on the environments and the art design, but also from a gameplay perspective. Like there are drastically different things to do depending on where you go. You have like a full little farming sim that you can go and engage with. You have, in certain spots, and then you go into Hawaii, which is the basis for the two turn-based games. But it's like, cool. Well, would you rather play it in real-time action? Dope. Here, run around Hawaii and go play fucking Dragon Kart and then use your grapple hook to get her. You got a grapple hook in this game where you just grapple to different ledges and you can grapple enemies and drag them towards you or drag you towards them.
because that
Um,
was from the previous game, Gaiden.
mm,
This is the thing, they introduce a system and they always bring it forward and stuff like that. And they just tweak it and perfect it. And it's what they are just the masters at. And because you could
yeah,
play, I think Majima was like a DLC character in Gaiden in the Colosseum modes. So that was their basis of like, all right, let's like, because I can guarantee his moveset is probably very, very, very similar. It's so quick in comparison to like Kiryu and stuff, and so fluid, quick, and just so over the top. And because I can see it in the video, obviously that I'm watching, running the footage and
yeah,
stuff. It's just I'm so glad that it's him getting this game as well, because his humor is just so good. You played it with the English voice actor though, right?
yeah,
Okay. Because I just there's
yeah.
I just love the Japanese guy because Japanese as a language is very expressive, and the way the Majima voice actor like delivers his lines is always like they all of the characters are like a 9 on delivery, and he's always like on a
A
15 for
12,
just it's
yeah.
just like Jesus Christ, man, I love this guy so much.
Dude,
So
he's and it's like they looked at him and they were like, "Well, who do we have that's a lot like Johnny Depp?"
mm,
Okay, Majima, welcome to Pirate Yakuza of the Caribbean. Like
yep.
it's and it is the thing too where it's cool because like Judgment and this and the later Yakuza games, I know a lot of people are going to be put off by, not having the dub. Whereas like you jump into this, you straight away, if you're an English speaker and you don't want to read a bunch of text, like boom. Well, to be clear, that is the one knock I'll give the game is there are a lot of you're still reading a lot.
Mhm.
There's a lot of shit that's not voiced over. And when you play something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or Avowed or even like even not to go ahead and get ahead of myself, but Cabaret, a game like a super indie game and it's like fully voiced, but it's fully voiced for one language opposed for multiple, which I understand the difficulty there. Um
It's also the
but yeah,
thing
it's
of
like
like being efficient with your resources,
true.
because a lot of people with the CRPG bomb with the CRPG boom in the early like things where they were putting them out, like Divinity, both Divinity games didn't have a lot of voice acting. The first game didn't have any in its 1.0 release. That was when they did the definitive edition and added that. And the thing is like that game didn't struggle for sales for that 1.0. It's usually when it made its way to console that they were doing that. And so I think there's a lot of like for me, I don't actually mind the the little like gaps that they usually leave out, because you got to think of, like you said, they're doing so many languages that they have to do. How many hundreds of hours is that going to take to get all that put together that could have just gone into making a really funny side quest instead? Does that
Yep.
take it out enough for you that you'd want it to then eat content away so that the entire game is voice acted out of curiosity? Because I know some people do genuinely feel that way.
No, I don't think it necessarily has to be that though. I do think that there's ways to like expand development so that you can achieve both goals. You know what I mean? Like, but maybe it's just not financially viable for
Mm.
them. And you have to make cuts where you have to make cuts. Like I don't understand. I don't have their checkbook in front of me. Like I don't know where the cuts have to come from per se. I think that if you're telling me I can go and play Crazy Taxi with a bike and get to drive a bike around and deliver people pizza and sushi and cheeseburgers, and I get that at the expense of having to read a few lines here and there, like yeah, let me play Crazy Taxi and let me play pool and let me go gamble and let me, I was going in and taking tests. No idea why the hell like I'm sitting in a classroom, Majima's sitting in a classroom taking tests on like ancient history of X civilization, the history of Sega. I'm in there taking tests, and then he pulls out his test and he's like holding it up in the air, so proud, but he's not like he didn't look at the score, and everyone around him looks at it and sees that he fails, and they're all like, "Oh, I'm sorry, man," but he still doesn't notice until they all leave, and he like looks down at the test paper and he's so like that level of charm is just it's there in spades, man. It's there in spades. Um,
I love it.
you know, and now they have like a full they've this once again might be in some of the other games, but they've updated the batting cages to where it's like called the Bang Bang Batting Center, where you're swinging at cannonballs, and you're essentially taking that batting cage concept and then mixing it into Tetris, where you swing at cannonballs, you hit this trash can, and then if you hit it perfectly, it disintegrates the trash cans below it. And so you rack up scores by the more you're able to disintegrate with one hit. Um, it's crazy, dude. You can customize Majima now, where like you can go in and change his hair and shit. I don't ever remember that. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't remember being able to like customize people's hair in Yakuza.
Um, I think that is a newer edition, if I'm remembering correctly. I think they've been doing that a little bit more. But yeah,
No, that's
it's
crazy.
definitely like a first for him. I don't think you could do that with other characters.
It's wild, dude. I mean, like you can throw parties on your ship if you want to, if you have enough food and booze and stuff. You can throw parties on your ship. There's a full cooking mini game where it's like you're timing it as if you're kicking field goals in Madden or punting the ball in Madden or whatever. Um, it is just so ridiculous. There's a morale system for your crewmates on the ship, so you got to give them gifts and it it's crazy, dude. I'm looking through my notes here trying to see if there's anything that I haven't touched on. Um, but yeah, that there's a first person mode where you can walk around in first person.
Yeah, that's
It's
something
like
they've had in the past few games that they've added. It's really, it's not like perfect. It's not like on the level of like RE of where
right.
they've been able to meld it, but being able to suck yourself into the character and be in their eyes and then move around the cities and stuff, it adds to a level of immersion.
Dude, it's an A tier game. Like it's an A tier game for me. It would be hard for me to see this not being in like my top 10 at the end of the year. It's just so damn fun. And it's not like a narrative juggernaut. It's not I'm not gonna sit here and say I was captivated from beginning to end with the story. Was the story ever bad though? No, definitely not. Like great performances from a lot of the cast. I have no real like major complaints with the story. Sure, do they over explain stuff? Absolutely. But they do that in all their games.
All right, so you said A, yeah?
Yep. A for Pirate Yakuza. Really, really loved it.
Um, right. Um, so next up is Tales of Graces. So this was me. You didn't play this.
Nuh-uh.
Um, hmm. It's weird because I don't really have much to say about it, but it's incredible. It's kind of a weird thing of like I 100% Tales of Arise. That was my first ever Tales game. I absolutely loved it, and obviously wanted more in that series, exposing to it. So I ended up going and doing Vesperia. Didn't really gel with it as much, and kind of bounced off. And then went to Symphonia, and that I would be as harsh to say as I hated it. So it was kind of like, okay, there's this on the horizon. I think it dropped in January of this year, or was it last year? I think it was this year, right? It was a new release.
Yeah. Because I played a little bit. No, no, that wasn't the one I played. Hold on, I'll look it up. I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure.
I don't know if I've sat on it for a long time or if it released in January. But regardless. Ended up being it was gonna be the thing of where it's like this is the final like straw. Either I'm gonna only play new Tales games and just not do any of the old ones, or this was gonna be like the saving grace. And this is incredible. This is such an enjoyable game. It's just everything you would want from a JRPG is there. And it balances being so simple and rewarding and just constantly just moving along. There's hardly any like dull feet dragging moments. You're just constantly progressing through areas. You're constantly moving on, and the narrative is good. Something as well that they added, which I think is why I didn't really enjoy. I think Vesperia didn't have it, or Symphony didn't have it. You have a marker the whole time. That's my biggest thing in JRPGs. Just tell me where to go. I will
Oh
choose. I will
man,
choose to do the random encounters that are actually on the open world. They're walking around, so you can choose to weave through them. But you're showing me every single second where I'm going, so that I as the player can choose how much time I'm going to waste.
bingo.
And
I'm buying
with
it right now.
the remastered thing, it throws in a bunch of like bonuses and stuff. And something I've had enabled from the very beginning is your running speed is doubled. So I'm constantly sprinting everywhere. And it's so beautiful. And
Dude.
it's just like these are just quality of like this is a thing of like you've gone back to an older game and you've just refined it in the way that it should be refined. So yeah, it's for me personally, it's an Esther.
Oh Jesus.
Like this
Shit, yeah.
is I think I don't know if I actually I don't know who I said it to. I don't know if I messaged it to you or if it was on the Discord. I'm having more fun with this than I was with Metaphor. This is a
No
better
shit.
JRPG than Metaphor for me from an enjoyment standpoint. Don't get me wrong, the narrative and the things that they're weaving there, they're kind of just like, yeah, this is kind of generic JRPG crap, power of friendship and stuff like that. But the game, like from an enjoyment standpoint, is way, way, way better than Metaphor was for me. And it also blends in a nice bit of comedy as well. It doesn't take itself too seriously. So that was a nice thing. So yeah, that's
And
it for
it's
me.
all action.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no
So
turn based. It's your and you can it's again, it's tinkering it to what you want to do. You can choose to play as the character, or you can just be like, just do it on your own. Because there's times where obviously I'm busy doing stuff. And I can just be like, all right, go into this difficult battle in like the arena and stuff, and just fight on your own and grind me up levels while I go and do something else. I come back, oh, your character's died, so you made it to this level, this tier. Here's your reward. Kick you out and stuff like that.
dude,
It's
you just
just
sold me.
it's an incredible game.
I bought a copy of it just off you saying that there's waypoint systems.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. That is my thing, man. Like if you are going to waste my time to that degree in a genre that is already like
Yep.
grindy and can be kind of prideful about wasting a player's time, if you're gonna like not tell me where to go, it's like, dude, I that is there it's yeah, I could go on forever about that. But then on top of that, the action-based combat, the fact that the story like, is the story is up there, or is it middle of the road? Is it just like really fun to play, but is it also like engaging from a narrative standpoint, or
It's very light-hearted in many ways. It's kind of cliche, but I think there's enough there to enjoy.
how loud are the characters? Like, are there any female characters who have high pitched, like squealy voices?
Probably Pascal would be the closest to that, but she's kind of bubbly more than like screamy. She's
Okay,
kind of
I
like
can deal with it.
excited to be a part of of the journey. But there's a character on that front cover with the long hair and stuff. And she has
Mhm.
amnesia. And it's just so beautiful because this is very, very early in the game and it's not really like anything like major. But like you enter the town and one of your characters like, "You left me behind. Stay right there," she screams at you from across the town. And obviously your character's like, that means like don't run away from me, basically, is what she's implying. Like don't think about trying to get away from me. I want to like tell you off. Your characters all run towards her, but the one with amnesia doesn't know like how any of the world works. So you're having this conversation and then they're like, where is she?" And you turn around and you're like, why are you over there? "She told me not to move." And it's that kind of like dry humor. It's just like, oh my god, this is
Right.
so good. So
That
good,
is
I love
awesome,
it.
man. Absolutely, dude. Well, I just picked it up based off of those few little that those are important, man. That is so important for me. I don't know, maybe we're in the minority on that, but like if you'll just tell me where to
Yeah.
go, like I'm happy. I'm happy to buy your game. If it's a solid high quality game
Yeah.
and you're not wasting my time to a crazy degree, like yeah, man.
And that's it's not only just that, like I think that's automatically turned on, but you have a bunch of things in the settings where you can just be like, if you truly don't want to grind like hundreds of battles, just have it so that it pumps up the XP game. So
Oh,
that you can just
wow.
absolutely slam through these enemies that are crap and they will give you the equivalent of
S-
fighting six of them. Because that's what I've been
No
doing. I've been just
shit.
power leveling through, and I'm just like, man, this is that, and that's what I mean. Just giving that, because if some people enjoy doing that, power to you. But it's just a checkbox. You can continue doing that, but I would rather not. I
Yeah,
would
just
rather
give me
get
to
as
the main
strong as
story.
powerful, get all these different spells and stuff like that, and just have like not
Fun.
having to wait 500 hours to get these spells. I'd rather just have them as quick as possible. So that yeah, tinker in them menus, man. It's probably going to end
Nice,
up being
dude.
one of like your most favorite experiences of a JRPG, just
Hell
because
yeah.
of
Well,
that.
I'm really excited, man. I'm really, really excited. And March isn't looking overly packed, and I decided not to buy Monster Hunter. Did you ended up deciding not to buy Monster Hunter as well, right?
Yeah,
Just too
it's
much.
just way too much because we got
Assassin's Creed
Assassin's
and
Creed on the
Split
horizon.
Fiction.
Yeah, there's just
No time.
there's not enough time in the world, I'm afraid.
No. Not with KCD2 and Avowed popping up and then Pirate Yakuza. I was just like, dude, I started getting to a point this month where I was like, this is this is getting rough. 2025 starting to kind of hit back a little bit. Where
Mm.
we started off January, nothing. Dynasty Warriors, like that was it. Pretty much that was the only thing in January that came out. And then now it's like, here's 700 games. What do you got? Jesus Christ. How did Jesus Christ. All right. So
Lost Records
now
is up next.
Lost Records, and you put Tales of Grace in the S tier.
Yep.
I for the people at home wondering why the hell I'm asking this, I'm playing along. Because anyways, with the setup that we have,
With how we're
it's
having to do it, yeah, it just
yeah
wouldn't be feasible to share the screen and be me having to tab through stuff. We
yeah
do it this way to save him 10 hours of editing. Is what this.
exactly. And like I don't have to sit here and add all the fucking. I'm just a damn child at heart, and I want to see the. I want to go through it and do the rankings too. Not none of it's just this is literally just a format to discuss video games, and it's one that has proven pretty decent to attract some viewers. So we stick with this as kind of our game discussion format. All right. Enough rambling. Lost Records, Bloom, and Rage. So this is from Don't Nod, the people who created Life is Strange 1 and 2, which are, you know, in my opinion, Life is Strange 2 is up there with The Wolf Among Us, up there with The Walking Dead, up there with some of the best adventure, choose your own adventure games ever created. Life is Strange 2 is incredible, and Life is Strange 1 is really, really solid as well. So, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. You are playing as this girl. It's like a flash forward, flashback style game
Mhm.
where you are like 45 years old, 50 years old at one point, and then you're 16, 17 at the other point, and it's flashing forward and flashing back between these two different time periods. One is modern day, one is like 95. And the aesthetic in the 90s is so cool. It's so the rebellious teen angst thing is there, and that's depicted by the characters with their darker colors that they're wearing with their clothing and the grunge music and the just the sound of the music is so reminiscent of that early, not even early grunge, but just that grunge era, the post Nevermind era, if you will, where everything started to sound like Smells Like Teen Spirit, no matter what fucking song it was, everything sounded like that. And this is encapsulating that so well. And then it's the dichotomy of the because the 90s, people forget, like the 90s was very dark with the music, and even into the films and shit got darker throughout the later 90s. But the 90s was also this hyper colorized excessive marketing period where the economy was just booming, from the 80s into the 90s. And like you were seeing everything was just so colorful, leaving the 80s into the 90s. And then that was sort of the rebellious thing where the teens were like, well, we're depressed and we're angsty. And so it was like just the total rebellion attitude where they wanted to be the exact opposite of what the culture was at the time. And so there's this upstart grunge band. It's these teenage girls and they're playing their grunge music, and you end up running into them. You're getting bullied early on in the game, and the depiction of bullying as well is so. I just appreciate it so much. They're not afraid to really go there. Like whatever an actual bully would say is what is said here. There's, in my opinion, way too much like cartoonish representation of what bullying is, where it's like, no, a bully's going to call you fat, and the bully calls the main character fat. The bully is going to say shit that like really hurts, but is not violent. And that's the thing where it seems so often that bullying immediately escalates to violence. And it's like, in my experience at least, which I never was bullied, thankfully, but in my experience of watching bullies operate, I can think of maybe 10 instances in my entire life where I saw someone bully with violence. You know what I mean? 99, I mean, out of the thousands of times that I witnessed bullying in my life, it was 99% verbal, you know? And it's like, that is what is here. It's verbal fucking bashing, like the shit that cuts so deep, the shit that, loner and fat ass and like all of that stuff that you'll wear those scars forever. The verbal just scars. Um, and that's there. And they don't shy away from saying the shit that is like that's how bullies speak. If you want to create a bully in a game, create it in the way that bullies speak. Um, with that said, the teenage shit, like I just don't, and I'm getting older. So it's like it is that thing where I don't really want to play a persona. I don't really want to play a even bully at times. I'll get uncomfortable playing where it's like I don't want to play as teenagers. And it is the intentional cringe where teenagers do talk a certain way, and teenagers do have a certain set of uh, dialogue that you expect, and that is there. And especially in this era of the teenage angst, where it's like, oh my God. But it is, once again, I'm 30. Like, so if you're playing this and you're 17, you're probably feeling all the ways that they're feeling because they're 17. But at 30, dude, like you are kind of in that mindset of like you just the problems that you had as a teenager are so fucking irrelevant, and it almost pisses you off to even think back to when you thought about, oh man, I that chick turned me down, or like who gives a flying fuck when you have real world problems? But I'm an old ass man, and these are teenagers. You got to create the teenagers with the authenticity of how teenagers speak, talk to one another and also the problems that they have. So I think they do a good job of doing that. I also like how grounded it is so far. We don't need superpowers. Like Life is Strange is cool as shit for the kind of superhero origin stories that they create. But like you can just write compelling characters. You don't gotta fly. You don't gotta rewind time. You don't got like just create compelling characters. That's cool. That's fine. And allow me to make choices. I think the dialogue is so natural. I think the voice acting is so damn good. People will like realistically speak to one another, and in the middle of conversation, they will talk over each other. It's kind of Oxenfree-esque in that
Mm.
way, where it's the dialogue interruptions that how many times have we interrupted each other just in this,
Yeah, shut
two
up.
hour
Yeah, no, because
but
that is it. It's a natural way of
yes.
talking. You don't. It's not intended to be like you're cutting that person off. It's just sometimes it just happens, and that's what. Yeah, not enough video games get that right because it feels so binary of like you talk, I talk, you talk.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I ask the character this, they tell me. I then probe further, they tell me. There's no like, oh, I remember that. Like, kind of, yeah. It's very weird that not
Right.
enough do
And
that.
and I understand like the whole idea of like getting bullied and then the friends or not even the friends, but these people that go to school with you or whatever coming to your defense and they're kind of saving you from that situation and then you become best pals with them. Like, sure, that's cliche as old as time, but like that is kind of a realistic. I mean, bullying was fucking brutal in the 90s, man. I like it was really rough, and it's uh, even when I was in school, it wasn't horrible, but like I saw a lot of bullying, you know what I mean? And like you really could form lifelong friendships of just saying something, just being the person where it's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Go away. Like that, those little things could form lifelong bonds. Um, and so yeah, sure. The cliche is there. They form the friendship by interrupting while the main character is getting bullied. And the main character, ends up finding that these people who save her from being bullied, they're an upstart grunge band. And your character is a videographer. Is that the term? People who record video?
Yeah, I think so. Cinematography kind of stuff.
Yeah, she records shit. She's got a camcorder.
She's
She
like us,
records
but
shit.
worse.
Yeah. But the cool thing is like you'll see in vivid color the world around you, HD, like realistic looking graphics. But whenever you pull out your camcorder, it's got the film grain. It's got the kind of
Mm.
grainy footage, the 90s sort of I don't even like saying vintage and 90s together, but the vintage aesthetic that you would expect from the 90s, like some of the, going in and putting the tape into the VHS player and having to rewind it and like those things really represent the authenticity, the they want to capture the essence of what it was like to live in the 90s. And I really appreciate the links that they go to do that. Um so yeah, she ends up they want her to record a music video for them. And so that's her kind of task throughout the game. She's recording music videos, and of course, there's going to be all of the small like interpersonal dramas and the relationships and the conflicts and those little things. It's like a 5 hour. It's tape one, and I think that they have. I think it's only two tapes, so I think it's going to be like a 12 hour game. But it was like 5 hours, nice chunky. I played through it on PlayStation Plus. It was a day one drop there. Um, I like this game. I don't really think my choices have mattered much at all right now. I'm hoping that'll take shape in tape two. And I also hope that we see a lot more of the adult storyline in tape two. That would be my big thing. We led up to a big moment in tape one that I guess I'll just kind of avoid. I mean, they you see it in the trailer that there are tinges of horror there. I won't go into like the genre of horror. I won't go into the subplots or anything, but like there's tinges of horror that are remaining at the end of tape one, and I'm excited to see where they go with it in tape two. Also, character modeling is it's not there's stiff animations, but there's like crazy detail. Like the most realistic acne that I've ever seen on a character ever. It's crazy. And once again, as a teenager, like somebody I dealt with horrible acne as a teenager, to see it represented like so in such a detailed manner, it is like, wow, y'all really fucking nailed that shit. Um, but yeah, I'm a little bit bummed out that Take Two doesn't come out until like April. So I have 2 months of sitting here trying to remember this story. And I play ridiculous amount of games. I have all of this fucking content flowing in and out of my brain. I know that's not going to be a problem for the majority of people, but for me,
No,
I have
it
a
is
I
though. No, it is because this is the things that we see drop off with like why Telltale games struggled in the end. People don't want to be waiting for that next episode. It just doesn't. It does not work in a game form. It's so different. TV get away with it because you're not putting yourself in there. It's you're having to dedicate a lot more brain power to play a game than you are to just sitting and watching a TV show. So then you delving into this, tape one, 5 hours, you said, and then having to wait 2 months. There's going to be things, it doesn't matter how much you enjoyed it, there's going to be things that you've forgotten by that point. Also, the build up of story, it's going to lessen the
exactly.
impact because you've had to wait so long and you've experienced other things in between that. Where it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Instead of if it was a whole from start to finish, you feel that power and it's a lot more impactful. Imagine if they cut KCD2 in half. You wouldn't
Right.
dream of doing that because it would ruin that second half. So why is it that these much more driven narrative games feel the need to do that? Couldn't they have just waited until 2 months down the line and just dropped them as one game? If that
Right.
makes it like
Yeah.
why are we splitting this still? It's a proven formula that doesn't work. The Expanse came out and it suffered because of it. It just you can't do it with games. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't think it works like it does with
No.
television at all. I agree. And if you want to do it weekly, maybe, but like monthly, what the no, man. Not definitely not bi-monthly. That's crazy. Um, so I'm gonna knock it a few points for that for sure because like and I know that that's not me judging the quality of the game, but that is me judging like the amount of effort that it's gonna take me to get back into Take
Yeah.
Two, where I'm gonna have to like I just played this thing and I'm gonna have to go back and like read up on a summary before I jump into Take Two because it'll be 2 months away. Um, and also recording footage is just boring. Like that's going to be boring in every single game. And if that's like a main pillar of your gameplay sphere, like if that's one of the main things you're doing
If
in the
that's the
game,
gameplay loop, it's kind of
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Which, you know, the main gameplay loop is just choosing dialogue options and like that's totally fine. That's what I come to for these games. I just want to make choices and see how it branches. That's what I'm there for. Um Branching so far not so much. But I'm gonna go C tier for Lost Records Blooming Rage. I think that it could be bumped up to a B. I don't think no matter how much they drop the ball, I don't think it'll be a D. Like they've done so much so right that I think they can only go up. I think that this is kind of the groundwork for something that could get significantly better or just kind of stay the course. Which, you know, staying the course is fine. I'm always cool with a good C tier kind of lighthearted choose your own adventure game.
And you couldn't have chosen a better phrase to lead me into my next game of just staying the course. Oh boy, Rebellion. So, Sniper Elite Resistance. This is one that I finished, and it's a weird thing because I love sniper games, and they always like it's that kind of thing of they release them infrequently enough that when they announce another one, you're like, yeah, I could jump back in. Like they found that perfect spot, but their actual formula of the game itself is getting a little bit stale. Is
Mm.
how I'm feeling. I don't know. I don't know if I can do another one
Yeah.
because there's so many aspects now in the series where it's really frustrating. Like I was getting caught on staircases, and that was ruining ghost runs that I was doing. So like full stealth. I'm trying to walk up a staircase and my character just gets stuck and there's patrolling enemies and stuff and it's just like you've made like 7 of these games, and like this isn't like you need. Clearly, you just need a new engine, Rebellion. Like you need to like branch out a little bit more, and also the voice actor is dreadful, but that takes a backseat because you're not really playing for that. But he is. I didn't think he made for a particularly interesting character. Um, the missions themselves were varied enough that they it's a lot more scaled back than 5. It felt. I think it took me about 7 hours or so to beat the game, which is like the perfect length. But I don't know. The it They seem to be recycling a lot. You know, with them remaining in World War II, you kind of tapped that well dry like 3 games ago, 2 games ago. These are the same things. I think what would do them the best is go target like a modern day setting.
Right.
Do like a what was it? Chris Kyle and stuff. That kind of
Oh yeah,
time
yeah.
period setting because that was an incredible movie. I can't remember what it was called. American Sniper was it?
American Sniper, yeah.
Yeah, incredible movie. I think you could do a really good modern day sniping story with that. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be based off of Chris Kyle, of course. He's the most well-known sniper in modern history, but something like that, and just taking you to a different war front instead of it just going back to World War Two. Because it definitely feels like been here, done that, same old kind of thing.
Or what about like something totally fictionalized? You know what I mean? Like something where like a hitman, you know what I mean? Like a James Bond, like a more so sniper, less so, infiltration agent, espionage, but like have sniper missions that are set up in like Garrus, you know what I mean? From Mass Effect.
Yeah, you could do a
Like,
sci-fi setting
yeah,
and like craft a world. The thing is what I'm worried about that why they would have to create all of them assets themselves from like the ground up. And like
true.
nothing against Rebellion, man. Like they're a decent dev team, but they don't really think outside of the box a lot because I think they barely it has to be like they barely break even with these games when they come out. Like they have a
Mhm.
niche audience, but they never like propel themselves further than that. They're very efficient and smart with their money. That's why you don't see them doing so much. So I think the most ambitious thing they could probably do is move to like a more modern setting. Maybe rip a few assets off of like an Unreal thing where it's
Yeah.
already pre-done and try and work off of that. Because I think if they were to go like the whole sci-fi route and build it all like this whole universe of theirs up from scratch and do all this lore, I don't think it would do them particularly well as a company. I think if that flops, that will put them under.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I heard some pretty negative shit about Adam Fall recently.
Oh.
Their neck, yeah, the game that they have coming out, and I think next month or the month after.
See, that's the thing that people are kind of holding out hope is that this game was
Mm,
very anemic because it has to be because they've diverted things to Adamfall, and I was kind of sitting there thinking like I don't know, they've never been really good with like blowing the doors off of something. They've been a very safe developer since V2. That was their most ambitious project, and they've kind of just been recycling that just ever so slightly, making it a little bit bigger here and there, and then they've scaled it back a bit. So Adamfall is their most ambitious thing because it's completely different. It's meant to be like a Bioshock
yeah,
esque game,
which is scary.
exactly because it's from them, and it's just like, look, nothing against you. I just don't think you can do it. It's kind of the thing of like
Yeah,
me having my doubts about them being able to do Atomic Heart, that dev team and stuff like that. It's
yeah,
like you probably should maybe take the baby steps leading up to this instead of jumping
yeah.
in, and because that game did suffer, it took them months to get that like functioning and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it's another fairly negative. It's definitely better than Avowed as an experience because I was able to actually finish it.
Right.
So I'll always hold that sentiment, but it only just edges Avowed. It's still in the C tier for me.
Yeah. I I'm hoping that Atomic or Atomic Heart, Jesus. Let's.
Let's make a
I'm hoping
sequel
that
to Atomic Heart, baby. Let's go.
I'm I'm hoping that Atomfall will kind of land in that like 77 range, 78, like that. I think that's kind of best case scenario. And if it does land in there, I mean, it's on Game Pass. I'll check it out. I don't want the studio to fail. I think they at least create. I mean, hell, dude, the amount of guy with sword games we get, like I'm happy that there's at least something out there where you can snipe motherfuckers and like I don't know. At least it's some a little bit of spice of variety.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing I would just say is just if you're gonna play a sniping game, just do the Ghost Warrior contract games. They're the best that they
Right.
do, both of
Yeah.
them titles.
Well, dude, I kind of a bummer, but kind of to be expected. I don't even know if you can necessarily get disappointed by it at this point. Would you say it's kind of just exactly what you expected?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sweet.
Unfortunately,
Is is Tiny Terry Turbo? Is that the next one up or okay? So, were you good on Sniper?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Can we
Okay.
pause for one sec?
Yeah. All right. Back in action, back in action. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip is next up on the docket. This is absolutely incredible. So damn fun. If you kind of miss the Simpsons hit and run style
Ooh.
GTA clone, this is one I highly recommend picking up. It's not like a GTA thing where you're not going around like shooting and killing people. There's no like real mission structure. It's more collectible oriented and just kind of a fun, cozy, open world, light crime sandbox that you're engaging with here in Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. Um, you want to go to space. That's your mission. And to get to space, you got to upgrade your car because somehow this car can can get you to space. I don't. It's actually surprisingly kind of funny, where the characters will, they'll be in dialogue or whatever, and it's all just like text based. They make like little weird sounds, but they will say some like fucked up shit, and your character will just on the screen, all you'll see is like dot 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 dot. Okay, it's just like little fun reactions and stuff where and you even get like little dialogue choices that you can make. It's nothing overly, you're not weaving down these in-depth branching trees or anything like that. You're just trying to go upgrade your car and fly into space. I don't know what to tell you, man. That's the entire premise of the game. You're going around getting collectibles and trying to get to space. You have like some bumper cart battles where you're in a parking lot and you're battling kind of with it's not like a real villain. There's not like real villains in the game per se, but one of the guys that's kind of an asshole in the game, and you're battling him with your car in some bumper cart battles. You're going around and you're catching bugs and you're using those bugs to create a new meal at this store because somehow you got like infinite French fries from this restaurant. And they're like, dude, you're bleeding us dry. You come in here eating all the damn French fries every day. We got to find a new meal to create. So you go out and fetch a bunch of bugs. You bring the bugs back to them. They fry the bugs and now they make bug burgers. So that's their new way of making some money. It's just fun, man. You're interacting with shopkeepers. They're giving you quests. You're going out and doing. There's like there's a guy that's hiding off in a dark alley, and he's like got his hood on, and he's got glasses, and he's like real ominous looking. And you go up and talk to him, and he's like, he's wanting to do some crime. He's wanting to make some money on the up and under. I don't really know what the phrase I'm looking for is here, but he's wanting to make some shady cash quickly. And so you're like, okay, well, how about we go rob somebody? It's like, no, I don't think we can do that. And you like are asking all these questions about how the fuck are we gonna go make this cash? And eventually he leads you to a point where he's like, okay, well, I won't rob people. I won't murder people. I won't, lie to people. I won't manipulate people. And he's going through all the things that he won't do. And it's like everything that he won't do, it eventually leads up to he won't commit a single crime. And so you're like, but you're a criminal. And he's like, well, yeah, but we're gonna have to find other crimes to do. We can't do any of like the typical crimes. So you're going around and trying to figure out some shenanigans to get into with this guy. Um, there's like soccer. You can go and play soccer with your buddies because you're supposed to be at summer school, but you end up going and getting a job. And the only reason you go and get a job is because you want access to this car, and they're giving you a car to like go and do deliveries or whatever, but you end up not doing any of that, and you're just taking the car and trying to upgrade it so that you can get to space. Once again, the entire game is trying to take a car to space. It's batshit. But it's summer school. Your buddies are over there playing soccer, and there's actually like a little mini game you can play and keep playing, a little soccer fun mini game. Um, so yeah, it's much more Simpsons Hit and Run than it is GTA. It is a open world light crime sandbox, but that's really the only connection there. It's super cutesy and funny and lighthearted and um but it's more of a collectible driven experience than anything else. So yeah, I finished it. I liked it a lot. I'd put it in probably the B tier. The B tier. It definitely belongs in the B tier.
Awesome, man. That's
I
great.
mean, any open world game like this where you're going around driving a car, committing light crimes, like I'm gonna play all of these. And I'm not saying it's one of the best ever, but it's cool that indie developers are creating experiences like this, because for the longest time, like it just it's cool to see indie developers actually were inspired by Grand Theft Auto, and they're going to try to take their own spin at that formula. I was worried that we were going to kind of get stuck in that NES inspired era, PS1 inspired era, but we're also now leaning into the PS2 inspired era, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Oh.
B tier for old Tiny Terry.
Yeah, the clips as well looks really interesting. It just looks it just looks like a fun time. Really light-hearted. I'm assuming it's cheaper. It's not going to be something that's like
Yeah.
40. It looks like about 15, 20 maybe.
Yeah, I think it was like $15. I think it was under $20 if I'm not mistaken. And you're gonna get you 7 hours out of it. That's yeah.
Right. Up next for me, Kanitsugami. Finally wrapped that up.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
it was one of the ones that it was the free drops all at once, right? Within like a week, basically, with Flintlock, Dungeons and Hitterberg, and then Kanitsugami. And you went with Dungeons, and I went with Kanitsugami. And it's just a unique experience. Like it's totally doing its own thing, and I'm all here for it. Like we don't get enough. What do you call it? Like tower defense games, like in general. So even like a hybrid tower defense game, which is kind of what this is. Like it was such a breath refresher. The combat as well is actually pretty solid. The further you get into the game, the more difficult the bosses get and kind of test you. And the stages themselves actually evolve. It's not just like guard this one path or whatever. It becomes diverging paths, and then you have even like because you're basically going from the top of the mountain to the bottom, and you're purifying all curses on the way down. So you eventually hit like massive lakes that separate these settlements. So then you end up boarding boats and having to like shoot cannons and stuff like that. So the gameplay does evolve um, a decent amount. It's not as much as I would have hoped. I hope that I would hope this maybe gets a sequel. It got positive things, but I don't think it's sold like anything. So I don't think we'll ever see this again. But it's the type of thing of where it's like this is why I respect Capcom. They're not afraid to like throw one of these out because they could have you think of the money that they threw onto this isn't probably a ton, but if you're like an investor and stuff like that or someone higher up, they could have just been like, well, why are we going to throw this here when we could just throw that into the next RE game? So
Yep.
I'm glad they've thrown me like this bone at least. And if there's anybody that would potentially take another crack at this, it would be Capcom. It would just be probably in about 15, 20 years. Because this is, it ever so slightly links into um
Onimusha.
not only Musha, what's the sun goddess one? The dog
Oh, Okami.
Okami. Because you have an Okami like skin set and stuff, and a lot of the art style is very Okami esque. It feels like.
Damn, that is true. This definitely has Okami vibes because Okami didn't sell well at all either.
Yep. And this is what I mean of like, if I ever see another one in this series, it'll probably be like 10, 15 years. And if I'm being 100% honest, that's probably about as much time as I'd want to wait. I don't want one
Yeah.
of these every like 5 years. It was definitely one hell of an experience because it was like an 8, 9 out of 10 the whole time up until the final area. And then they were like, okay, you've got to the bottom of the mountain. Now you need to back 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 all of the bosses. So you go, you beat all the bosses one by one in the stages, and then you just have to do them all at once at the end. And I was like, wow, that's that's a choice. And that's the only thing I can think of why they did that is just to basically stretch that runtime out because it is a very short game otherwise. But
Yeah.
I don't know, I loved it. I loved it. It's definitely one of my favorite games of this generation
Wow.
because it's
Damn.
so damn unique and it just speaks to me. And it's one of them things where it ends up landing in one of my favorite games in the generation that I cannot recommend to anybody because no one's gonna
Ah,
like this. This is just all of the things it hit are things that just are weird quirks of just like, yeah, man, I love this. It would have been like if I was one of them people that they were in the meeting pitching it to, and say there's 10 of you in there, and the one guy's like, this is my idea, 9 of them are going to be like, what the hell are you talking? Get the hell out of here. And I'll be like, nah, man, let's see how it goes. Because it's just so damn
yeah.
unique.
Well, and it's also like it feels like one of those games where you can take those learnings into so many different areas where there's so much that was achieved with the creation of this. Like this has so many different features and so many different, combat mechanics and just gameplay mechanics in general, where it's like, okay, well, how about we, once again, the masters of iteration, RGG, what would they do? What would RGG do? That's going to be the new phrase. It's like, well, hell, we'll take a lot of these systems and use it for either gameplay for an entire other game or gameplay features for an entire like there's so much that they could expand with this because they just there's a lot that was created here. That's a lot of fucking work that went into getting
Yeah.
all these things up and running and yeah, functioning with one another.
And it's perfect that you drew that comparison because it would land in the A tier for me overall. So right next to Pirate Yakuza. The reason it
Nice.
slips, it probably would have taken S, but that final section is brutal. Making me fight every single boss back to back is just like, whoa, what the hell was the thought process there? Like I've already shown that I can beat them when I was weaker. Why am I gonna beat them at my peak? Like that didn't make sense to me at all. I don't think it didn't add anything. That's all.
That's how I feel about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where that's probably the only reason it's not like my second or third favorite game of all time because of that last
With the
section where you
gang
got to go
things
back
where
and
you have to go back and
yes.
yep, I'm not a fan of that either. It just feels like it wastes the player's time doing stuff like that.
And it's already such a big game.
Yep,
It's like, dude, what are we doing?
yep. So
Cool,
yeah,
man.
B. Onto your big helmet heroes.
Big Helmet Heroes. All right. So this is one that Jeffrey put us on whenever we were doing our most anticipated games of February, one that he was like, this looks pretty damn solid, kind of Castle Crashers
Yep.
3D look to it. This is just I played it right after KCD2, exact game I needed after KCD2. Just something that's so simple in terms of like it's once again, it's probably more challenging than Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but it's the it's a totally different type of challenge where you're able to just kind of turn your brain off and you're engaging in full stop combat challenge. Like there's nothing to this game other than combat, 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 combat.
Right.
Um, and there's like real deal difficulty spikes in this thing. real deal difficulty spikes where certain bosses are like brutal until you kind of figure out what you need. I shouldn't say brutal, but like, you'll die 3, 4 times. And to me, I if I die more than once in a game, I'm usually kind of fucking annoyed. I hate dying over and over. But yeah, I listen to a podcast the entire time while playing it. You just listen to a podcast and hit shit with a sword. Uh, you got like different heroes and they all have their own special moves. Some you can like slow down time, others can, send sheep to attack the enemies. Others can do like charged Cyclops style blasts and turn people into sand. And there's a lot of variety with the different heroes that you unlock and the way that they play. And if you're playing it, you can play it couch co-op and, go in kind of Ultimate Alliance style, pick out your heroes, go into battle. Or if you're playing it solo, you can control both the heroes and swap in between them. So if you want some variety and, I'm kind of tired of playing as this one, you swap to the other one. And if you're low on health, okay, well, I'm going to swap to this other guy. So that's one thing that kind of benefits in terms of getting you through the game, not being like real brutal. If you were just having to stay as one character the entire time, you'd you'd get fucking decimated. But you have pretty much 2 health bars that you can go through. And yeah, there's a lot of interactivity with the world. You can pick up like a bunch of different weapons throughout the game, use, different guns, different axes, different bombs, throw bombs. There's some good little platforming challenges. I think there's about 20 or so levels that you go through. And yeah, you probably finish it in 5 hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours, something like that. And it's not a game that I'm going to sit here and like, I don't have a ton of incredible things to say about it,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it's really one of those games. You know what I mean? It's just
It's a palate cleanser.
light. Yeah,
It's one of them games, like you said, that you utilize in that kind of way of where it's just for the next thing of being that bridge almost of like you went off of a massive expansive RPG, you just need something very short, sweet, doesn't require all that much in the way of mechanics to get you to the next game.
totally. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's perfectly put, a palate cleanser. This is definitely a palate cleanser style game, something that is not overly resistant, something that is going to be consistently fun. It's going to be something that listen to two damn pick your 2 hour podcast. You listen to 2 2 hour podcasts and it's over. You know.
Or just listen to this ranking for the month.
Yeah. Right. Just this one ranking and you'll finish the game. Well, I'm sure so many people do that. Listen to our podcast while playing through games because I do that shit all the time as well when I'm just kind of grinding or whatever.
Mhm.
I would probably put this in the C tier. And I know that sounds weird because I don't have many negatives to say about it, but I think that there is kind of that thing. And C is not like a negative whatsoever. C is still a really good game, or at least a good game. It's just not a game that you're not going to have your mind blown once while playing it. You're gonna have fun the entire time. But like when I think of B tier, I do think of like getting close to exceptional in certain areas. And I don't think there's anything necessarily exceptional about this game. I think it's beautiful. The art style I think is actually really pretty. I think it's just nice, chill, fun. So yeah, C is not. I know some people think it's either 10 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10, and somehow a 7 out of 10 turns into a 3 out of 10. Not for me. I love 7 out of
Yep.
10 games, and sometimes I even like 7 out of 10 games more than 8 out of 10 games. It's just like, anywho, it's a C.
Yep. Oh, fair enough. It's about what I expected from the stuff that I saw
Yeah.
of it. Um, the Castle Crashers comparison is probably spot on. It's basically just that. So
Yeah. It's fun, man. Like I don't think anybody's gonna buy this thing and because it's cheap, it's pretty damn cheap.
mhm.
I don't think anybody's gonna buy this thing and be like, that's a fucking waste of money. Like if you go into it with like that high of expectations, that's I don't know. I don't think that's anybody's problem but yours. It's just a chill little cool game.
Yep. Eternal Strands is up next, so that's back to back for you.
Okay. Eternal Strands. So that was a January release that I didn't have time to talk about last month. Um, this it's the weird thing where gameplay wise, it is pretty damn fun.
Hmm.
It is pretty damn fun to play this. I just really, really struggle with. I struggle if you're not capturing me with your story. I start having a tough time continuing with the gameplay, even if the gameplay is so damn good. Unless you're like an Avowed, and that's just because of Obsidian's excellent pedigree. I'm like expecting some big revelation moment,
A
some
rabbit out of the
huge
hat.
story. Yeah.
Yep.
And with Eternal Strands, it's like even though like the gameplay a lot, I just couldn't power through. I couldn't. And once again, there's a lot of games coming out, and it was that thing where I'm like, okay, well, do I power through this while I'm not engaged with the story at all, or do I shift my attention into like a Kingdom Come 2? And then, yeah, happy I did so. But this is coming from like some ex BioWare talent, some ex Ubisoft talent, and you see a lot of that in like you have dialogue decisions you can make, and there's it's kind of visual novel presentation where you have the characters still imaged on the screen, make a couple choices, it presents the story to you that way. um but then you have the kind of Immortals Phoenix Rising thing,
Mm.
where it's this open world kind of smaller scaled back version of Breath of the Wild, where you have a climbing stamina meter, and weapon degradation, and I think there's weapon degradation. No, 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 there's not weapon degradation because you have the specific weapons that you can pick from at the start, where you can go in and you have your bow and arrow, or you have your sword that you can use, and then you can actually upgrade those. So there's no weapon degradation. That's my fault. It's actually been quite a while since I played the game. I'm kind of, but it's got some cool shit in there. Like in terms of mechanics, they have the thing where you can freeze enemies in place, where you use your ice powers, and say there's a dragon that you're wanting to kind of fight on the ground, wanting to make sure that they don't leap off into the air. You freeze their feet, or they're just flaming your ass down. They're breathing that damn fire, and it's fucking you up. Well, you put the damn ice on their mouth. You pretty much seal their mouth shut to where they can't breathe those flames, or they can't spew those flames. Um, and then they have the systems kind of Dragon's Dogma-esque in a way, where you climb onto the dragon and you're clinging onto him with L2, I believe, and he's trying to sling you off. He's flying up in there, and you're just like grabbing on, hanging on for dear life, and then just attacking the weak points over and over. You're fighting a big Colossus style enemy that's like a Shadow of the Colossus, kind of humongous fucking big entity that you're trying to find the weak points there, climbing all around him, getting slung all over the place. He's going and like you're on his shoulder, and he actually grabs you off of his shoulder and just flings you. And those emergent gameplay moments, I I value that a lot, but it's like I just wasn't hooked into anything but the gameplay. And it's that thing. It's kind of the opposite of KCD2 once again, where KCD2 not the greatest gameplay, but it just hooked me through with the story. This has pretty damn strong gameplay, but you got to compel me to keep going. You got to compel me to finish it. And it has like the Ghost of Tsushima wind navigation thing, but at times it's just janky, where it doesn't directly guide you to where you're supposed to be going. And that's what we talked about earlier with the Tales of Grace, where if you just put the damn thing on the map and tell me where to go. And I understand, maybe sure that does eliminate some of the need for exploration or whatever, but it's like my theory behind that is always, if you tell me where to go, I'll go there, and then I'll explore when I want to explore. Like why are you forcing me to go around and like find the good shit, whenever it's like if I want to explore the side stuff, I'll choose to do that on my own.
Yeah, if it's not a brutal
Um,
game like a Souls like, where they're kind of adamant with like work it out yourself, where the difficulty is part of the experience. Something like this that I'm watching, like there should be no excuse because it should be something that should be toggleable as an accessibility feature. Then let people choose whether or not they want them icons and stuff like that. It's such a simple fix because all it needs to be is because Tales of Graces did it. All it is a star. It's a golden star. That is it. It doesn't. It's not obtrusive when you're walking around and
Right.
explore. It's just a gold star that says 300, and then when you move towards it, the number goes down, indicating that you're getting closer to it. That is it. And you can like yeah, because you just don't want your time wasted. You just want to get to the next bit. And because for me, what I'm doing when I'm watching this, I'm never trying this. I think this is even in Game Pass. I'm never booting this up. This just looks, eh. If I'm being honest, it
Yeah.
just looks very, very been there, done that kind of thing. It doesn't look like it's doing anything new and unique and exploring new things in that. And that's why it always gives me pause of worry whenever, because you like you said, the thing that they marketed the game off of is its ex devs of this, that, and that. Like when you're having to use that as a marketing ploy, that always worries me personally. Because that's you're not focusing on the game, then you're focusing on what they've done in other games, and yeah, that always rubs me up the wrong way, personally.
I wish they would have had a little bit more of the BioWare and a little bit less of the Ubisoft. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, but it's like if this could have been presented stronger from a narrative standpoint, like if we could have seen some, I'm not saying overly elaborate cutscenes, but just something to kind of hook me into the story, I would have kept playing it. And also, I hate the crafting. I hate having to go out and collect resources and bring the resources back. And then, okay, oh, I don't have enough fucking eagle eyes. Let me go out and get some eagle eyes. And now I got to get five more eagle eyes to get this next set of armor. Like, that shit is just, I love the whole idea of you're out in the world, you kill some shit and they drop a weapon, boom, I pick that up, that's now my weapon. Like I love that snappiness.
Yep.
You drop some armor, I pick it up, now that's my armor. But I do understand you're not necessarily fighting a lot of, well, yeah, you could definitely still. Anyways, it's for me, I would probably drop this somewhere. Is there a didn't finish here?
No, the lowest is D, but we can say didn't finish as D because nothing else is going to go in D
We'll
for
we'll,
me.
we'll just I'm gonna throw it in C. I definitely wouldn't put it in the D tier. It's yeah, I'll throw it in. I'll throw it in C.
Cool.
I mean, it is like it's a very, very, very mechanically sound, functional game. Like this plays good. It's just, it's got some real weaknesses with the story.
I'll do you one better. I'll just rename the tier from D to did not finish because I don't think that Cabernet game is going in D, is it?
Yeah, no.
Then yeah, there's no need for the D to exist because Warriors Abyss sure as hell ain't going in there. Oh boy. So is that
Hit
everything
me.
on Eternal Strands? Because I don't really have anything to prod at it. For me, I won't. When I was looking at it, I had no excitement for the game because it reminded me of an Immortals Phoenix Rising, which I didn't really care for. It reminded me of a Breath of the Wild, which I didn't really care for. So like, I was like, yeah, for those that enjoy it, I'm sure they'll get something out of it. But it's not for me.
I do want to reiterate though, like this is a good game. Like it's not even debatable in my opinion. Like this is a really, really well made game. So if y'all like what y'all saw on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
did you see the Shadow of the Colossus, like the
Yeah,
big
that's what I
old
mean. It's just that's not stuff that speaks to me
No,
personally.
totally. But I'm saying like if I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
that was shown
yeah,
because
yeah,
like
yeah.
that style of
We
shit, if
ran
you're
both.
into
We
it,
ran both the 3 minute clips, so it showed everything.
cool,
Yeah, that's what I mean. If it's for
cool.
those that enjoy like the Breath of the Wild stuff, it's gonna rub you the right way. It looks like,
Yeah.
but for me, it's just yeah, that doesn't do anything for me.
Because I've listened to people talk about this and like there's people who are in love with
Mm.
this thing. So I don't want my
Mm-hmm.
slight negativity, which is not even all that negative. I just don't want my if you're in the mood right now to go and hunt some shit down and you got Game Pass and you don't want to buy Monster Hunter, dude, boot this thing up. You'll have a lot of fun with it. It just didn't do enough narratively to hook me. So yeah, that's my Eternal Strands final ramble.
All right, Warriors Abyss. This is a this is a me one. Oh boy, what a roller coaster of emotions. Obviously playing through Avowed, and then got hit with that massive roadblock. I was kind of just left. It was a weird. It was like a day or two of like limbo, of like not being able to. Because I was playing Tales of Graces, but it's kind of that thing of like when you're looking forward to something and then having that ripped away from you,
Yeah.
you're kind of just left there like, man, that's kind of like winded me almost of like in an enjoyment sense. So I was like, what's like released recently, that I may have missed. I was like scrolling through the store and I was like, I've not got a lot to throw around, so it's not going to be like, oh, I'll lock in that pre-order for like Monster Hunter, for instance, and stuff like that. It was like, I need something cheap. And I started scrolling and I was like, oh yeah, Warriors Abyss. That was in the Xbox showcase, right? Because it was the 1-2 punch of they
That was the
showed.
PlayStation.
Was it the
That
PlayStation
was the
one?
state of play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they showed something. What was the other thing? Was it Onimusha that they showed with it?
Uh, Probably, yeah.
I think it was an
Oh,
Onimusha remaster.
yeah, that was definitely there.
Yeah.
Onimusha, the new one, the remaster, and Warriors
And
Abyss
then
were all
like
there.
Abyss like was thrown in there and I was like, I remember like watching that and like being like, this is for me when like from that showcase, that was one of like the saving graces. So I was like,
Hmm.
damn, that looks really damn good. That looks really fun. And it was like the thing of like, I'm not gonna jump straight into it because I'm not that big of Dynasty Warriors fan. So I didn't also buy Dynasty Warriors Origins. Like they're okay games, but they're just kind of repetitive. They've put this into a roguelike and have like it's Dynasty Warriors, Vampire Survivors, and then Hades. And that is the triangle. And oh my god, it is just addictive as hell. Holy crap, I could not stop playing this. It was just jumping in and being like, okay, this first character is kind of cool. And then you finish the run and you get these karma embers, is what they're called. And they've basically thrown in all characters almost from all of the Dynasty Warriors games and Samurai Warriors games. So you're working through this tree and getting stronger and stronger characters. And it just balls out of control. It is just you get to like your fourth run and you just don't lose because you're so
Yeah.
powerful and you just everything is just it's just pure dopamine and it's become like one of my most favorite experiences so far and I'm so sad because the footage that I provided I play like shit in it compared to what I
Nah.
play like now. I'm like, man, what are you doing? Because you just don't know. Like, you obviously haven't got a feel for the game. You don't know the systems and the mechanics and stuff, and like you're still learning. Because this was like, I think the what I recorded was like the opening 45 minutes.
Well, yeah, and that's always the bummer too, where we want to record footage before it gets into any like spoiler territory. So we record something early, and the early footage doesn't
Yep,
represent like the real good footage of the game that we could have grabbed, but we don't
yep,
want to grab the good footage because we'll spoil something.
yep. And thanks. So I could have probably grabbed footage for this because obviously there's no story really. The story is
Oh,
paper
okay.
thin. It is just a roguelike kind of thing. Because you played Hades, right?
Hmm.
It's kind of just like that. It's just back and forth character talking, and it's very scaled back, even more so than Hades. It's very much the backseat. And I've
But
like,
even there, it's like you don't want to spoil a boss or something potentially, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, true. There's not that many bosses. I guess I'll dink the game for that. There's only about 4 or 5 bosses. Um, but no, like I've unlocked Lubu. If you're familiar with the mythology and the time period and stuff, te- considered the god of war in Chinese history. He's just so broken. He's and it's
OP.
beautiful because he should be broken. He is the most badass motherfucker in Chinese history, in my opinion. And it's just such a blast to play because you're like in these clips, I'm getting like my ultimate's going off, and it's getting. I'm like, yeah, man, 10,000 damage. Nah, Lubu, man, he's coming in with like 2.5 million. Like the guy is a freak, and it's just pure bliss, and just yeah. It Biff, like you said last night, you couldn't turn off playing whatever you were playing. Dude, I lost like three. I was going to bed at like 3 in the morning. Like I just couldn't put the game down because I'm playing like
Yeah.
Tales of Graces, and I'm like, yeah, that's enough of that. I'll go for more Warriors of Abyss, and then I look up and I'm like, wow, like I put like an hour into Tales of Graces and felt like I enjoyed my time in that. And I look up and it's like, man, I put 5 hours into Warriors Abyss. This game just has me gripped, and it's
Right.
just it's the praise I gave on the Discord because I did technically beat it. I rolled credits on it. It is the best roguelike I've played since Isaac that isn't a card roguelike. Because they do tickle me
Damn.
a particular way, card games. So they do much better for me than probably most other people. But it's not even close, man. This is better than Hades for me. It's better than any other roguelike that I've played since
Holy
Isaac.
shit. So this is like your game of the year so far.
Right now, right now, this
Damn.
is my game of the year.
Kind of battling it out with Tails, or do you think that this is kind of a lock, or
See, I don't know. I with Tales being a game that's re-released, it's a remaster. That's
right.
technically taking like the second stab at it. It would be like feeling uncomfortable with like how people felt about like, Elden Ring's DLC. It's that kind of thing, and like not. I wouldn't say that. No, it would probably end up getting my Unshackled Game of the Year, maybe if nothing else
Okay.
comes on the Discord, which is where I just basically say like whatever game you've played gets a nod at that, and then you have your true game of the year. Maybe Tales will edge it, but yeah, this for the year of release, this and it's that kind of thing of just again just dropping out of nowhere. Had no idea this existed. Not really bothered by the series. It's not like I'm looking forward to Dynasty Warriors again. This has got
Of
me
course.
hooked. I was watching videos on the previous Dynasty
Oh,
Warriors games. Like I'm like, man, I'm gonna check some of this stuff out. Like maybe this is like that thing where it needs to hook you in to then get you to be like, man, go give them other ones a try and give them a good try. Because there's clearly something here. It's just pure bliss.
bro, that happened to me with Hogwarts.
Yep,
Like it hooked me in, and like I'm gonna watch the movies. I'll play every Harry Potter game that comes out. I played the Quidditch. I'll play the next Hogwarts. Yeah, it. All it takes is one thing.
yep. So S tier.
S tier Warriors Abyss. Is it Dynasty Warriors Abyss or just Warriors Abyss?
So that's the thing. They have two series. Dynasty Warriors is the Chinese side, and then Samurai
Hmm.
Warriors is the Japanese side. This is both of them
Okay.
combined. So you have
Okay, so just
both. Yeah.
Warriors.
So it's just the Warriors, and then Abyss is you're just going through hell, beating demons and stuff. So damn good. So
Nice,
damn good.
dude. I might have to check that bad boy out. Might
It's
have to
cheap as
check
well.
that.
It's cheap. It's
What is it, like
20,
25?
20. I think it's 17.99 in the UK for the base version.
Nice.
Don't buy the more expensive versions. Or it's a classic Koei Tecmo thing where it's just the more expensive versions are just skins. So don't be
No
like,
physical.
I don't know. It
Oh,
definitely didn't get an Xbox physical.
no.
It may have got a
I'll check real
PlayStation
quick.
physical. So you can quickly give that a check. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I gotcha.
something where buy that cheapest
No.
version, you get more than enough game.
No physical for it just yet, unfortunately. But yep, 24.99 on Steam. I see that. So good asking price to get people in the door for a potential game of the year contender. Loon, you ready to
I
talk
am
about another potential
game
game of the year contender?
game I hadn't heard of, and you seem to be really damn hot on it out of nowhere. And are you turning around and saying a visual novel as well when you're this hot on it? What the hell's going on? Are you feeling okay?
This is without a doubt, if it keeps up at this pace, clearing everything I've played this year by a mile.
Oh my god.
Loon, this is your shit. It's like X-Men First Class, but for vampires. Because you're starting off as a rookie vampire. You're brand new to the vamp life. So you're learning as the character in game and as the player of the game. Like, it's so perfect for anybody who's not into vampire lore, who doesn't know a lot about the vampire life. Because like these are my favorite style of stories where you're thrown into a scenario fresh and it's your choice to decide what happens from that point forward. There's no established arc for your character. You fully get to create all of that. Like you're not creating the character, but you're creating every decision that's made along the way. You know, you can be as evil and as bloodthirsty as you want to be, or you can retain as much humanity as possible. That's 100% up to you. And there's positive and negative consequences for either side of that story that you choose to write. So it's not a thing where, oh, okay, well, go and be a good human and you get to all the happy da da da. It's like, no, dude. That doesn't make any fucking sense, you know, because there's like a humanity meter and a nihilism meter. And it's think kind of Paragon and Renegade, but with much more room for like moral ambiguity. Because nihilism doesn't necessarily mean evil or bad. And human most certainly doesn't guarantee good. I mean, the worst atrocities that have ever been committed in the history of the universe. Obviously, were all committed by man.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like it's not trying to necessarily tell you that the human path is the more morally correct path than the vampire path. So you're having to decipher all of that shit. And dude, it has been, I've played about 4 hours so far. It has been hands down the best 4 hours of a game I've played this year. Not even fucking close. The voice acting is unfucking believable. And every one of those thousands of lines are voice acted with top tier writing, top tier voice acting. Did you have something you're about to ask?
No, I'm just shocked. Like this has flown under my radar. Like a vampire game that's like a visual novel. Are you kidding me? Is this a new release?
New release, just released, and I would have never checked this out.
What the
I saw it on an
hell?
indie horror showcase a while back, and then I saw it pop up because I've been doing the thing where I'm playing like these Tiny Terries and
Yeah.
these smaller indie games. So I'm trying to check out as much as I can this year in the indie space. This is, if it stays at this pace, it's not just my game of the year so far. It's one of the greatest indie games I've ever played in my life. It is the evolution of what you, if you could think, how could a BioWare game be adapted into the indie space? But then also, like, you know, how could you also turn into a bat and then let's make it into a 2D side scroller where you're roaming around a town, free to roam as you please, free to break into a window. And if the window's unlocked, you can break in, roam around someone's house. And then it's like, you really want to be careful with the relationships that you build because sometimes knowing too much will put you at a disadvantage as the player because your moral spectrum, your moral compass, depending on how you align, because like I'm invested in these characters, man. I don't want to do bad things to them because like I like these characters. I met a couple who are going through some rough times. The I won't go too much into it, but the husband is a drunk and the wife's having to put up with it. I'm also tasked with breaking into their house to steal documentation. So I go into their house because there's high level vampire politics. Like you're going into castles and there's blood sacrifices. And sometimes, like, you don't have to kill someone to drink their blood.
Mm-hmm.
You can drink enough of the blood to leave the person living, but to also refill your meter. And once again, that makes it to where it is not necessarily evil to be a vampire. I love that idea. This is an infliction, not a this is not a choice that most vampires make, at least in this world. Like you didn't choose this. Someone chose it for you. So you're not evil inherently. You can choose if you want to be evil.
That is the whole point of a vampire story. This is why like Vampire the Masquerade gelled so well for so many people. That's the premise.
Yeah.
Is there a masquerade thing? Is there like you having to blend in with society?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
Dude,
my day. Why have you told me this?
it's
I'm gonna
cheap as
lose so
shit,
much
dude.
time.
I don't even think it's that long. I think it's like maybe 15, 20 hours. It's perfectly paced so far. You hold L2 or LT on Xbox, you have a wheel that pops up. You can go invisible, you can turn into a bat, you can turn into a fully fledged vampire. You can enchant people by singing them a song, luring them into a state of enchantment, a state of unconsciousness. Go in, suck their blood, get it out. But hey, oh, I sucked this character's blood and his wife caught me sucking his blood. His wife is thinking that they're having an affair. So shit, What do I do? Do I have enough blood reserved to enchant her as well? Because your blood's draining as you use these abilities. And dude, and then it's like, okay, I'm breaking into this house and I'm looking around, I'm rummaging through all their shit. I can steal any of their stuff that I want to. And then with the stuff that I steal, I get points. So that's it. It's a role-playing game. This is not just a visual novel. This is a role-playing game. You have history stats, politics stats, science stats, logic stats, um English like literature stats, art stats. And so, depending on what you allocate your stats to, that will unlock new dialogue trees for you. So you're gonna go,
I'm buying it now. I'm
but,
booting it up. I'm buying it now. You don't
bro,
need to sell me anymore.
this
It's
is
getting
in.
purchased.
This is. I'm so happy that I started doing the thing that I'm doing, where I'm just going in and trying. And I'm not listen. I understand that that's 99% of the population can't go in and check out the most random little indie games. Like there's not enough time. There's not like I totally get that.
Mhm.
But doing it for the channel and trying to relay some of the quote unquote hidden gems to y'all, like this is what I live for with this channel is to find something that this is Evil West. This is Sleeping Dogs. This is Mount Rushmore of hidden gems. I once again, I do not know. I could be I'm 4 hours in. Maybe 10 hours from now, it's totally off the rails. Like, so don't take what I'm saying now as like a
No,
definitive
I
statement.
don't. It doesn't look like it's going to be that kind of. It looks like I don't think you can screw something like this up when the foundation is so good. The only thing I'll say, they've done it no favors with that cover art because I'm sure,
With
much like
yes, it looks cutesy.
With Xbox, not even just that. I'm sure that it's the same with PlayStation. Because PlayStation has this even more of a problem. You have a bunch of them crappy like 5 minute platinum games, and it's been placed with them,
Ooh.
and it has that kind of like, oh, that's a lower budget kind of art style. So
Hmm.
that's just been very. There's 4 people that have given this a review on Xbox. 4 people.
Bro, I don't ever review games. After I booted this thing off last night, immediately went and five started. I haven't finished it. I know that I probably shouldn't do that, but I was so taken aback by this game. Like, dude, the thing too, you can put people in a trance and influence their minds to your advantage, of course. Or you can even influence their mind to their advantage. Once again, allowing for the moral flexibility of the life of a vampire, where it's like, this person's an alcoholic. I influence their mind. Sure, I might drink their blood, but like that's not going to kill them. It's not like you're a venomous snake or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you're not injecting them with any sort of venom that's going to leave them permanently harmed unless you drink too much of their blood. But as I put them in a trance to drink their blood, I can also say like words of encouragement to them that will influence their decision making going forward. So this guy, he's axe he's got an axe and he's chopping wood. And he's drunk as fuck. And I'm like, you need to put the bottle down. You need to stop drinking. You need to work on, getting sober. And so you're able to potentially influence this guy's life in a positive direction. Um, I'm breaking into a house, and I don't even want to say too much because, like, but I'm early on, so like, I'm not spoiling anything late game at all. I break into a house, and I, as I'm rummaging around their stuff, the couple comes home, so I have to hit invisible real quick. And as I hit invisible, they're talking about all their financial problems. Well, lo and behold, I find a fuck ton of money hidden in hidden in like the attic or hidden in the like in the yeah, the attic or whatever it is. And so it's this thing where I realize that they're having a bunch of financial issues. But I got enough money sitting right here that'll set my character up for life to the point, not for life, but for the foreseeable future of the game, to the point where instead of sucking people's blood, if I view that as morally uh, abhorrent or whatever, I could say, okay, well, I can take this money from these characters and I can go buy vials of blood, That way I don't have to be the one committing the act if I view that as morally, you know, wrong.
Mhm.
Um,
God, it looks so good.
dude, it's I could go on and on, man. I could go on and on. And once again, I can go on and on talking about this. I'm 4 hours in, and I have so many of these stories. It's it's insane. I will say, I definitely wish that it was better optimized for console.
No, you
It's
wait
definitely
now.
well, it's not like broken or anything. It crashed
Yeah,
on me one time, but it auto saves like very, very, very frequently.
that's fine.
And then you,
I,
yeah,
I I sat there and played through Risen 1 on 360, my friend. I have
right,
tolerance. No, this just sounds so amazing. For the moment
yeah.
you turn around, because I didn't piece it together. It, of it being a vampire game until you said it. I was like, oh. Then you like visual novel, and I was like, hmm. And then you started like rattling off like all of these golden points, and it's just like, fuck yeah, man. This is,
And I
I
should,
need more of this.
yeah, I shouldn't even call it a visual novel. It's a role-playing game. Like it's a vampire RPG with
A vampg, if you will.
yeah. Um, but it's more of a game about story. Like it's not a combat game. It's none of that at all. In that sense, it is like a choose your own adventure of sorts, but it's not really it's a point and click more so than a visual novel. Like there is legitimate interaction with characters, not so much cutscene, but like legitimate interaction between characters. You can see them talking and emoting and shit like that to some degree. Certain times more visual novel leaning, but I don't want to sell it short and call it a visual novel. It is not. Visual novel wouldn't be one of like the first three or four descriptors for it that I would use personally.
Well,
Um,
you sold it for me. It's
I'm
installed already. It's ready to go.
that damn internet boy. Um, I yeah, and it's only like a 3 gig download, 4 gig download. I got to put it and didn't finish because I haven't finished it, of course. But next month I'll come back and I'll hit y'all with my full thoughts. This is one that I will. I just started playing it last night. So like it's, I'm this is one that I'll probably have finished in like 2 days if I keep playing it at the rate I'm playing it. Like there's nothing more I want to do than go back and play this. This is my by far game of the year so far. But with the caveat that I haven't finished it. So if it keeps up at this clip, game of the year. If it drops off, I'll obviously let y'all know that next month.
This will be one because I'm on the verge of finishing up Rage. And how I'm rattling off my series as I do the 1 hour like test out, and then if I enjoy that, then I'll make a series out of it. That's coming after Rage. I'm gonna do this because it looks so damn good, and it'll give me an excuse to play it like immediately.
Yeah. The only tip I will give people is like there will be times like because there's no quest markers or anything because it's not big enough to really have quest markers. Um, like the and I know like I almost sound kind of hypocritical in that sense where I don't give some games enough leeway to not have them, and I'm giving this game full leeway to not have quest markers. But like it's such a small town that you're inhabiting, at least early on. So like it's but the tip I will give is that there's roads that can take you to different small like little districts, and it's sometimes hard because once again it feels like it's something that was made for you to be playing real close with a monitor. And so don't if you see that little it's like a little bar thing that pops up that means that it's a road that can lead you to a new path. So there was a period in the game where I was like, oh, damn, I'm not really sure where to go, but I didn't notice that there was a road sign that would lead me to somewhere new that would, unlock the and it's pretty straightforward about how it gives you enough flexibility to tackle quests in different ways, but it's pretty straightforward about getting you there. So yeah, I love this thing. Love this thing.
That bat flying is amazing.
Right? It's the art style is incredible.
Damn,
Yeah, and once
damn.
again, dude, Loon, I cut the gameplay off before all the cool shit happened because like I I, I don't want to you'll see in the thing where it's like 17 minutes long. I
Yep.
recorded 30 minutes of gameplay. And so I cut it off because that's the bummer about doing these where I don't really know because I've had people complain before about having too much spoilers in either our discussions or the gameplay or whatever. So I'm trying to be cognizant of that. But what happens after the part where I cut it off is like where the game really starts to shine. So all of that shit you saw is like cool, but it goes to 11 immediately after that. It's
Yeah, we made it
yeah.
up to the woodsman. Is when where the it'll probably be cutting off.
Yeah, and I
It
think some
looks
people can
incredible.
maybe
Like nice political intrigue in that party, and then being able to go and expand out to the town and then be very personal on like a one to one with people. It looks yeah,
dude,
so good.
A- And you also won't go too much into this, but you work for a doctor, so you're learning different, science attributes through doing that. And then possibly able to create concoctions and shit down the line. I don't know. I don't know. But there is a spot in that doctor's office where it says create. And like, I don't know what you're creating, but you're creating something. And that shit's just like, yes, yes, yes. So now I'm like leveling because I leveled up. I jumped into it without really a care in the world. So I was like, fucking, well, I'm just going to boost my stats into art and fucking literature or whatever. We'll see what happens. Now I'm like, oh
I'll
no,
paint the most beautiful square.
but the
Beautiful.
thing is the first character I ran into, I really benefited from having like a high artistic stat because they're a really artistic person. I was able to get my way and convince. Anywho, it's fucking amazing. I don't want to convince people right now to go out and buy it, but I will report back to you next month and I'll have my full thoughts on it. But I would definitely say, if it keeps up at this clip, this is my game of the year so far, without a doubt.
So S.
Didn't finish. I haven't finished it yet. I can't put it in S. I don't and if I had played 10 out of the 15 hours, sure, I'd rank it in S, but I'm 4 out of 15, so I can't do it just yet. But
That's fair.
um yeah. I damn, I really do want to put it in S.
Yes, I'll have to.
Put it in S. Put it in S. Fuck that. Put it in S.
I think if it's made that much of an impact, because I know what you mean. Like I feel the same way of like you don't want to jump the gun, having not finished something. But if it's made that much, because even if it flops, like your experience right now of that opening 4 hours is the bet you just said it's the best experience basically that you've had this whole year.
Yeah.
Them opening 4 hours, man, run with that.
Cut the didn't finish tier and we'll drop it to we'll just we'll that way I won't feel too damn guilty. We'll just leave it as what do we have in the didn't finish? Just
It was Eternal Strands, and then it would have been that.
okay. Well, yeah, we'll throw Eternal Strands in the sea and then perfect. We're out of there. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we'll
It would feel wrong. It would feel wrong not having it in the didn't finish tier if I literally haven't finished it. You know what I mean?
yep.
So
Well,
it,
that's
it's
gone.
it's yeah, it's an S with a major asterisk. So just keep that in mind. Right now, it is currently absolutely an S, but I have a lot more game to be played. So we'll see how, yeah, and that's the fun of doing these month to month. We'll see kind of how things evolve. These aren't like locked in place rankings that aren't mendable. So we'll shift them as need be.
Mhm.
People, we appreciate you. We shall see you very soon. We hope y'all are doing well. We hope y'all are um
Enjoying what you're playing,
yeah,
and yeah, getting involved in the discussion. Tell us what you played this month, and if you
absolutely.
want to give like rankings of them, absolutely. I love like flicking through people's things and being like, oh wow, I forgot that game existed, or
Totally.
should have probably checked that out because that's getting an S tier.
Yeah. Well, guys, that was a big one. That was a nice, probably the
It
longest
was a
ranking we've
it was
done.
only a 3 hour and 15 biggin.
Probably the longest ranking we've ever done, and probably going to be one of the longest rankings of the year. I would assume February was stacked, chilling in March. Nice, slower paced release cadence. I'm excited to chill a little bit and maybe dive into some backlog and some replay titles. But hit us in the comments down below with what you have been playing, my good people, and stay tuned. Coming soon, Nintendo Direct reaction that we shall be doing, and a bunch of other good shit. So stay locked in, and we shall see you very soon. Goodbye.
See you later.